Chapter 335. Xiao Chun stood at the top of the tree. His body moved along with it, as though he would be flung off in the next moment. However, he maintained a delicate balance and remained standing at the top of the tree, not getting flung off. Boom! 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 Bolts of surging lightning struck down endlessly, shaking the heavens and shaking the earth. It was like the lightning was going to shatter space. This light illuminated the pitch-black night in the forest. Nothing must happen to him. Xiao Chun prayed. The lightning seemed to strike Xiao Chun's heart, making him extremely anxious. Under the baptism of the heavenly Tao, Xiao Chun did not dare to release his spiritual sense. Otherwise, if the heavenly Tao detected it, he might receive an even harsher punishment. Dust filled the sky, blocking Xiao Chun's vision. Occasionally, lightning fell from the sky, as though it would never end. Hu Qi! Xiao Chun sent out a sharp palm wind. The palm wind was as sharp as a saber. It cut through the dust filling the sky, revealing a crack that extended towards Bai, who was in the center of the dust cloud. The crack only existed for an instant before it mended. Xiao Chun's eyes were like lightning. In this fleeting moment, he finally saw Bai's figure. Under the baptism of the lightning, that golden halo became even brighter. The divine and dignified aura deterred others from looking directly at it. Fortunately, I can hold on for a while longer and I will pass. After all, the mysterious 9 heavenly revolution transformation is an immortal-grade cultivation technique of the fiend race. Xiao Chun heaved a sigh of relief. The lightning roared for a while before it completely quieted down. However, the boundless clouds in the sky had not dissipated yet. It was like the calm before the storm. The air in the forest stopped flowing in an instant. The dust filling the sky seemed to freeze, not moving at all. A heavy atmosphere spread out in the forest, making breathing difficult. It felt like a huge rock was blocking one's chest. It was extremely uncomfortable. Xiao Chun held his breath as he looked at the rumbling thunderclouds in the sky. He muttered to himself, "This should be the last one. I hope nothing goes wrong." Right after Xiao Chun said that, a golden light exploded in the horizon. The boundless dark clouds looked boundlessly resplendent under the illumination of the golden light. A golden bolt of lightning tore through the night sky. It was like a golden javelin piercing through the obstruction of space. It descended from the sky and landed on Bai's head. The boundless golden light exploded, and Xiao Chun felt a piercing pain in his eyes. After a while, he was temporarily blinded. Everything in front of him was pitch black, and he completely lost all light. The unending shockwaves struck Xiao Chun's body, causing him to sway unsteadily in the air before he fell heavily to the ground. Xiao Chun extended his spiritual sense and his surroundings appeared in his mind. Then, he flipped in the air and landed firmly on the ground. I was too careless. The golden lightning is probably one of the highest grades of lightning. Even a martial monarch would not dare to look at it directly, Xiao Chun thought to himself. He had to get rid of the lightning in his eyes as soon as possible. Otherwise, it might leave behind a hidden injury that might cause permanent damage to his eyes. Xiao Chun sat cross-legged. Purple essence flowed through his meridians and into his eyes, carefully expelling the remnant golden lightning in them. After a while, the lightning was completely gone. Xiao Chun opened his eyes again, and his vision was restored. Slash! With a shout, Xiao Chun rose from the ground and quickly flew towards the spot where the golden light had landed. The dust that filled the sky slowly dissipated. In the center of the dust, a perfect and flawless girl's body appeared in Xiao Chun's vision without a single piece of clothing. The girl was only 14 or 15 years old. Her skin was as soft as snow, and her delicate facial features matched with her small oval face. She looked very delicate and cute. Her eyes were tightly shut, and her thick eyelashes cast 2 fan-shaped shadows on her cheeks. As she breathed, her eyelashes seemed to tremble like butterfly feathers. The girl looked like she was asleep. When Xiao Chun felt the girl's aura of life, he heaved a sigh of relief. He took out a set of clothes from the universe ring and placed it on Bai's body. Xiao Chun carried her in his embrace. Her soft and delicate body had the youthful and cute aura of a young girl. It would make one's heart tremble. Xiao Chun took a deep breath and calmed the intense fire in his heart. This was a physiological reaction that all men would have. Xiao Chun rushed back to his courtyard. After causing such a big commotion, it would be hard to avoid startling some people. He had to leave this place quickly. Xiao Chan carried by and executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art. He flew across the ground, and the scenery on both sides flashed past his vision. At some point in time, Bai, who was in Xiao Chen's embrace, suddenly opened her eyes. When she opened her eyes, there was a seductive air to her lovely face. The corners of her eyes curled up slightly, and her eyebrows reached her temples. This was a pair of captivating phoenix eyes. Her eyebrows were curved as she looked at Xiao Chen's serious face. Her eyes were filled with curiosity, and her lips curled up into a faint smile. She looked down and focused on Xiao Chen's thin lips. It seemed like she thought of something. Suddenly, Bai hooked her soft arms around Xiao Chen's neck. Her red lips parted slightly, and her snow-white teeth bit down on Xiao Chen's lips. The sudden change in the situation and the slight pain at the corner of his lips caused Xiao Chen's essence to be disrupted. He nearly fell to the ground. At the critical moment, he quickly dispersed his essence before he could stabilize himself. Bai released her teeth and revealed a smile. Her face was filled with pride. A small trickle of blood appeared on Xiao Chen's lips. It was the result of Bai biting his lower lip. In one day, he was forcefully kissed by two girls. Xiao Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry. The expression on Xiao Chen's face affected the wound at the corner of his lips. It immediately caused Xiao Chen to suck in a breath of air in pain. This is not a normal kind of pain. Where did this girl learn this from? When Bai saw the pained expression on Xiao Chen's face, she said suspiciously, "Elder brother Xiao Chen, what's wrong? You look like you are in pain. However, when elder sister Ryue kissed you, your expression was very comfortable. Could it be that Bai did something wrong? Perhaps it was because this was the first time she spoke, or perhaps it was because she saw the pained expression on Xiao Chen's face. But Bai's immature voice sounded very timid and fearful. Xiao Chen suddenly understood. So that's how it is. However, you did not learn from her properly. She only lightly tapped me, not bit me. However, Xiao Chen naturally said these words in his heart. It was not good for Xiao Chen to explain this to her directly. Furthermore, when facing the transformed Bai, it was impossible for Xiao Chen to get used to it. You are not wrong. However, you cannot casually do this to others. You can only do it to someone with a very close relationship, Xiao Chen said after thinking for a long time. Bai nodded. Her cute face revealed an understanding expression. She said in a melodious and immature voice, "And I know. Elder sister Ryue likes elder brother Xiao Chen. That's why she can do that. I also like elder brother Xiao Chen, that's why I can do that. Elder brother Xiao Yang also likes elder sister Xiao Ming. I often see him secretly kissing elder sister Xiao Ming." Xiao Chen felt a headache coming on. The more he explained, the more confused he became. However, he finally understood why Bai did it. She had just transformed into a human and she already knew so many strange things. So it turned out that she learned it from Xiao Meng. Xiao Chen was not good at this kind of topic. He could only smile embarrassedly and did not say anything more. He freed one hand and took out a pair of shoes from the universe ring. "Since you are awake, you can walk by yourself. I'll give you a pair of shoes. In the future, you have to learn how to wear shoes." Bai hooked her arms around Xiao Chen's neck and squeezed herself in Xiao Chen's embrace. Her watery eyes were filled with doubt as she asked seriously, "Why? Elder brother Xiao Chen, didn't you often hug me in the past? In the future, you have to hug me as well. Bai likes it when you hug me. Can you stop moving around?" Xiao Chen said depressedly in his heart. Bai was now wearing a simple robe. Most of her body was not covered properly. Most of her snow-white skin was exposed. She came into direct contact with Xiao Chen. The young girl's fiery body pressed tightly against Xiao Chen's chest. Her firm and soft breasts occasionally pressed against Xiao Chen's chest. To any man with a normal physiology, this would arouse the flames of desire in his heart. This was especially so for the girl before Xiao Chen. She did not know what kind of arousal her current actions would arouse in a man. Xiao Chen closed his eyes and worked hard for a long time before the blazing flame in his heart calmed down. After a while, he opened his eyes and said calmly, "All right, but you have to promise me not to move. Do you understand?" Bai nodded her head obediently. "Bai will not move. Bai is very obedient. I will definitely not move." Xiao Chun put away the shoes that he took out and looked at Bai's pure face. That pair of soul-stirring eyes made him smile helplessly. Xiao Chun thought to himself, even if I don't move, she is still a fatal temptation. Unfortunately, this girl does not understand anything now. In the future, I cannot let her be with Xiao Meng. I have to teach her more. After sorting out his emotions, Xiao Chun executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art again, and flew towards his courtyard. Not long after Xiao Chun and Bai Xiao left, 2 scarlet lights landed on the ground where Bai had transformed. These 2 people were wearing scarlet battle armor and scarlet cloaks. They had scarlet bloodsucker sabers at their waists and scarlet medallions on their belts. They were the Divine Saber Camp's commander and deputy commander. The 2 of them had grave and stern expressions. There was no focus in their eyes, it was chaotic. It seemed like there were countless aggrieved spirits in their eyes, letting out sorrowful cries. The 2 of them just stood there quietly and casually released their auras. The surrounding vegetation seemed to feel a horrifying killing intent. The grass bent over and prostrated itself on the ground, trembling. It was as though it was alive, feeling incomparable fear. The person on the right looked around as though he had seen through everything. After a while he said, "Big brother, it looks like that golden lightning did indeed come from here." The voice was somewhat hoarse, but it was very steady. The person who spoke was the Divine Saber Camp's deputy commander, Zhuo Yan. The person who was addressed as Big Brother was the Divine Saber Camp's current commander, Shi Mening. Shi Mening closed his eyes and a red light that was invisible to the naked eye was emitted from his body. When the red light returned to his body, he said, "The golden lightning is indeed the might of the heavenly Das. For this person to be able to withstand such an intense might of the heavenly Das, he is no weaker than Murong Chong." Chapter 336. Zhuyen said softly, "What does Big Brother mean?" Shi Mening nodded and said, "Investigate this person's identity. I want this person." Xiao Chun carried by, enduring the physical friction and mental torture along the way. When they finally arrived at his courtyard, he heaved a sigh of relief. However, there was another problem. Although there were many rooms in this courtyard, Xiao Chun had always been the only one staying there. Thus there was only one room that could be used. The others were all empty. There were no suitable beds. If it were in the past, there would naturally be no problem. Xiao Chun could sleep on the bed, and Bai could enter the spirit blood jade. Or it would be fine if she slept beside Xiao Chun. However, things were different now. Now that Bai had taken human form, it would be inhumane to lock her in the spirit blood jade. However, if he placed a pretty girl who did not know anything, who would occasionally tease Xiao Chan by his bed, Xiao Chun would not be able to sleep. He would not even be able to calm down when he cultivated. It looked like he could only spend the night outside the courtyard. Xiao Chun carried Bai into the room and placed her on the bed. He said, "You sleep first, I'm going to cultivate." Bai burrowed into the blanket and stretched her body. She looked at Xiao Chun with her large, watery eyes. She said in a melodious voice, "Elder brother Xiao Chun, come quickly. Let's sleep together." As Xiao Chun looked at the innocent and serious Xiao Bai, who seemed to take it for granted, he revealed an extremely conflicted expression. After a long time he squeezed out a sentence, "Bai, you have already taken human form. There are some things that you cannot do as casually as before. If a man and a woman are not lovers, they cannot sleep together. Do you understand?" Bai revealed a pondering expression on her delicate and cute face. Her little head was doing its best to digest Xiao Chen's words. She seemed to understand and not understand at the same time. When Xiao Chun saw her expression, he felt that she was really like a little girl, ignorant and lovable. Tenderness rose in his heart. He knew that some things could not be rushed. He had to teach her slowly. "Listen to me and sleep early. I'm going to the courtyard to cultivate. Don't think too much about it. Just take it slow," Xiao Chen said softly. Bai nodded lightly and said, "I'll listen to you and go to bed first. However, if brother Xiao Chen is tired at night, you can also come and sleep." Xiao Chun smiled gently and didn't say anything more. He immediately closed the door gently. He turned around and raised his head to look at the sky full of stars. He thought back to when he had first obtained Bai and how the mature six-tailed spirit fox had protected Bai without any regard for its life. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. For the first time, he felt a tinge of regret for what he had done. No matter what, since I have snatched away the love of your life, I will do my best to ensure that she does not suffer any harm. Xiao Chun looked at the starry sky with a calm expression as he made his promise. It was already late at night. Xiao Chun sat cross-legged on a rock in the courtyard. As the cool and tranquil night breeze blew, Xiao Chun's restless heart slowly calmed down. The purple thunder divine incantation circulated slowly. Spiritual energy flowed over like water. The spiritual energy at the foot of the mountain could not be compared to the spiritual energy at the top of the mountain. If he left the Heavenly Saber Pavilion in the future and wanted to find such a good place to cultivate again, it would be very difficult. Xiao Chun wanted to cultivate the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation to the 6th layer before he left. As he cultivated, time flew by quickly. The stars in the sky slowly dispersed and a faint light gradually appeared on the horizon. Dawn was coming soon. When the first ray of sunlight shone on Xiao Chun's face, Xiao Chun opened his tightly shut eyes. A bright light flashed in them. Xiao Chun saw that Bai had woken up at some point in time. She had one hand on the stone table and was looking at him in a daze. With a flip of his palm, Xiao Chun absorbed the surrounding purple electricity into his body. He got up and walked over to Bai. He smiled faintly and said, "When did you wake up? Why didn't you sleep a little longer?" Bai slowly stood up and said, "I woke up very early. From today onwards I will be a man, so I cannot be lazy anymore." The instant Bai stood up, Xiao Chun suddenly discovered that she was still wearing the robes that he had given her yesterday. Furthermore, it was just draped over her shoulders. When Xiao Chun stood up, his chest revealed a large patch of snow-white skin. He blushed slightly. It was not very obvious at night. However, it was currently daytime. It was not very appropriate. Xiao Chun recalled that there seemed to be a set of clothes in his universe ring. It was a set of clothes that he had bought for his maidservant Bao in the past. Bao's figure was about the same as Bai's. It should fit her well. Xiao Chun searched the universe ring with his spiritual sense and finally found it. He quickly took it out. "Wear these clothes first. In the future, you have to dress up neatly when you go out." Xiao Chun handed the clothes to Bai. Then, he looked at her smooth feet and said, "Also remember to wear shoes." Bai received the clothes happily. However, after measuring them repeatedly, her delicate face revealed a distressed expression. She said, however, "I do not know how to wear them. Elder brother Xiao Chun, please help Bai wear them." Bai asked with anticipation in her eyes. Xiao Chun took a deep breath. There were some things that he had to harden his heart. Bai was already a normal girl. She had to learn these things. You have to learn this. You cannot rely on anyone's help. Otherwise, you will not be allowed to go out, Xiao Chun said sullenly. Bai looked at Xiao Chun's serious expression and nodded seriously. She said, "Bai is very smart. Elder brother Xiao Chun, don't worry. I will definitely learn it." Xiao Chun nodded and smiled. "In that case, go quickly. Put on your clothes, I will bring you out." As Xiao Chun watched Xiao Bai pick up the clothes and head for his room, he revealed a grave expression. How should he explain Xiao Bai's identity to the others? This would be problematic. However, he could still trust the people of Qingyun Peak. He would just tell them directly. He could not lock Bai up in the courtyard forever. Sooner or later, she would have to go out and see others. Xiao Chun took out some breakfast from the universe ring. He sat at the stone table and ate unhurriedly. After a while, the door opened with a creak. Xiao Chun put down the teacup in his hand and looked back. His eyes lit up. He saw Bai wearing a long green dress. Coupled with her pure and cute face, she looked like a little sister. That pair of almond-shaped eyes added a hint of charm to this pure temperament. The two different temperaments merged naturally, making Bai look very tempting. Bai walked around Xiao Chun and giggled, "Do I look good?" Xiao Chun was slightly distracted. However, he quickly recovered. He nodded and said, "You look good. Let's eat something first." Bai walked over in satisfaction. She came to the table and ate the breakfast in small bites. Her eyes darted around before she said, "Elder brother Xiao Chun, I want to drink wine." Xiao Chun smiled helplessly. He took out a bottle gourd and poured her a small cup. He said, "You are only allowed 1 cup. It is not a good thing for a girl to like to drink wine." Bai happily held the wine cup in her hand and sniffed it. After that, she happily took a small sip. Clearly, she did not have enough. Then, she finished the wine in the cup in one big gulp. After she finished drinking, Bai immediately looked at Xiao Chan pitifully. Before she transformed, she often used this trick on Xiao Chan. Now she unconsciously used it again. I cannot let her do as she pleases. Xiao Chan put on a serious expression and said, no, there is only one cup. Eat something. Seeing that Xiao Chan did not agree, Bai felt helpless. She could only slowly eat her breakfast. The pitiful expression on her face made others want to agree. In the end, Xiao Chan hardened his heart and did not agree. He had to set the rules slowly. Otherwise, it would be hard to teach her in the future. After they finished eating, Xiao Chan led Bai to the dueling grounds of Qingyun Peak. Xiao Chan was looking forward to the strengthened ancient absolute saber formation. All this while, he had not forgotten his purpose in coming to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. It was to learn listening to the sword and communicating with it so that he could awaken Ao Jiao as soon as possible. As they walked on the mountain path of Qingyun Peak, Bai was very lively. She walked in front of Xiao Chan. She was as fast as the wind, unable to stop. She was very excited. When Xiao Chan saw this, he thought to himself, looking at the familiar world from a different perspective, anyone would be excited. This was especially so for Bai, who was still a child. However, when they approached the dueling grounds, Bai became very quiet. It was as though she was afraid of coming into contact with other people. Xiao Chan consoled her, it's fine. The people of Qingyun Peak are all friends. Friends do not mind so much. Bai nodded her head as though she understood. However, she still hid behind Xiao Chan. She was no longer as lively as before. Xiao Chan shook his head slightly and took the lead to enter the dueling grounds. Soft shouts came from the dueling grounds. Today was somewhat surprising. Xiao Yang and Xiao Meng, who were rarely seen, were cultivating here as well. They were exchanging moves with each other. When Lu Suifeng, who was exchanging moves with Lu Ruyue, saw his savior, he immediately revealed a smile. He quickly ran over to Xiao Chan. Lu Suifeng immediately saw Bai behind Xiao Chan. He was startled and immediately became stunned. The smile on his face froze as he stared at Bai. Xiao Chan coughed twice before Lu Suifeng reacted. He smiled awkwardly and said, sorry. Yi-chun, who is this beauty? Why do I find her familiar? Aren't you going to introduce her? When Lu Ruyue, Xiao Yang, and the others discovered the situation, they all came over out of curiosity. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. Xiao Chun organized his thoughts and decided to tell them the truth. There was no point in hiding such things. She is Bai. She just transformed last night. Lu Suifeng's expression changed slightly. He smiled embarrassedly and said, Yi-chan, you must be joking. Xiao Chan had a calm expression as he said, do I look like I'm joking? Seeing Lu Ruyue casting a doubtful gaze at him, Xiao Chan nodded and said, her situation is a little special. I will tell everyone the exact reason in the future. However, I hope everyone can help me keep this a secret for now. Lu Ruyue was the first to recover her wits. She said seriously, Yi-chan, you don't have to worry about this. Bai is the safest here. Xiao Chen gently pushed Bai to the front of the crowd and said, Bai, say hello to everyone. At this moment, Bai was no longer as afraid as before. She smiled and said, Elder brother Suifeng, elder brother Xiao Yang, elder sister Rue, elder sister Xiao Meng, how are you? Chapter 337. Xiao Meng pulled Bai over and said, let's go. Bai, I'll bring you to do your hair. A girl with messy hair does not look good. Before Xiao Chan could stop her, Xiao Meng had already pulled Bai away. Lu Ruyue smiled and said, let her go. Nothing will happen to her in Qingyun Peak. Xiao Chan was not afraid of anything happening. He was only worried that Bai would learn something strange from Xiao Meng. Xiao Chan smiled helplessly and withdrew his gaze. Thank you. I have already made my preparations to enter the ancient absolute saber formation. Lu Ruyue withdrew her smile and said seriously, come with me. This time the ancient absolute saber formation is much more dangerous than the previous ones. Tests your mental state even more. There are some things that I need you to pay attention to in advance. Lu Ruyue led Xiao Chan to a corner of the ancient absolute saber formation in the dueling grounds. She carefully explained some of the things that he needed to pay attention to. Under Lu Ruyue's guidance, Xiao Chun slowly walked into the saber formation. The killing chi of the ancient weapon surged over, continuously attacking Xiao Chen's soul. If it was a weaker person with a weaker soul energy, the killing chi that transcended time would cause their soul to scatter on the spot. Xiao Chun guarded his dantian and used his spiritual sense to protect his body. He blocked the flood of killing chi and sat down cross-legged in the center of the formation. Wang! The small saber in Lu Ruyue's hand gave off a melodious hum as it was drawn from its scabbard. The blade of the saber trembled continuously. Lu Ruyue was slowly activating the listening to the sword and communicating with it that she grasped. The weapon stuck in the ground immediately trembled as well. The buzzing sound reverberated throughout the dueling grounds. The sound of the thousands of ancient weapons trembling gathered together and formed a deafening sound. An intense wind blew around the saber formation without any wind. Lu Ruyue's pretty face was filled with a grave expression as she shouted suddenly, "Heavenly saber formation!" The small saber in Xiao Chen's hand gave off a dazzling light. A strong wind instantly gathered on Xiao Chen, who was in the center of the formation, forming a pillar of wind. Extreme! The light left his body and entered the wind pillar in the blink of an eye. The wind pillar immediately emitted a bright light. Then with a swoosh all the weapons began to glow. After doing all this, the blood drained from Lu Ruyue's face. She looked incredibly pale, and her body wobbled. When Lu Suifeng, who was beside her, saw the situation, he quickly flew over. He revealed a grave expression as he extended his hand to support Lu Ruyue. "Sister, is it worth it to help him like this? With your current cultivation, activating the strengthened ancient absolute saber formation will exhaust half a year of cultivation." Spending half a year's worth of cultivation was equivalent to wasting half a year's worth of time for peak cultivators. To a peak cultivator, if they did not work hard for a month, they might leave the group of peak geniuses. Wasting half a year's time would be a great loss. Lu Ruyue rubbed her temples with her right hand. After a while she opened her eyes, she felt much better. She revealed a faint smile on her pretty face. She said softly, "Aside from listening to the sword and communicating with it, he has done so much for Qingyun Peak. If I do not help him, who can?" Lu Suifeng said softly, "However, if he learns listening to the sword and communicating with it, he will definitely leave the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, this Qingyun Peak." When Lu Ruyue heard this, an undetectable disappointment flashed in her black eyes. She said softly, "From the first day he came to Qingyun Peak, I knew that he was just a passerby to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion in Qingyun Peak." After pausing for a while, Lu Ruyue smiled helplessly. She revealed an indifferent expression and continued, "In this world, there are some people who are destined to be extremely talented. Their names will shake the world, shocking the ancients and dazzling the contemporaries. Rather than tying him down, it is better to lend him a helping hand and climb to the peak of this world." Within the ancient absolute saber formation, Xiao Chun suddenly discovered the scene before him change under the light of all the weapons. He entered a gray world. Countless sabers tore through the sky, flying at Xiao Chun quickly. Xiao Chun, who had entered the ancient absolute saber formation many times before, had a calm expression. He did not panic at all. With a thought, a snow-white saber immediately appeared in his hand. The saber was 2 fingers wide and 1.5 meters long. The saber's blade flickered with a cold light. Xiao Chun had trained in the miniature ancient absolute saber formation for a few months. He had already made some progress in listening to the sword and communicating with it. All he lacked now was an opportunity that would allow him to completely grasp listening to the sword and communicating with it. Ding! 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 As the saber danced around, saber lights shot out, knocking away the sabers flying at him. Standing in the air, Xiao Chun had a pensive expression on his face. He said indifferently, "In the past, when I was in the miniature ancient absolute saber formation, I could already shatter the weapons flying at me. However, this time I used 70% of my strength and could only barely knock them away." It looked like it was as Lu Ruyue said. The might of this strengthened ancient absolute saber formation was at least 5 times stronger than before. The sharp saber lights came in an endless stream, flying at Xiao Chun as if they wanted to swallow him up. "Quick, quick, find your saber. Find your saber." A familiar voice rang out in Xiao Chen's ears again. His expression was calm as he ignored it. He flew up and down in the air. Saber lights flashed as he practiced the Wuxia saber technique. Glittering Wuxia. Wuxia transforms to Qi. Qi breaks Wuxia. Xiao Chan shouted 3 times and executed the Wuxia saber technique, infused with the state of thunder at full power. Streams of purple energy shattered all the sabers flying at him. The air slowly turned quiet. However, it was only quiet for a moment. Then countless sabers flickered with dazzling saber lights. They flew at Xiao Chan even more ferociously and quickly. Instantly, a bright light burst out in the gray space. It was so bright that it dazzled everyone's eyes. Wuxia blossoms. A purple flower bud appeared under Xiao Chen's feet. It gave off a strange purple light and enveloped Xiao Chen's body. Bang! 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 The sabers clashed on the surface of the flower bud. The continuous attacks were like a torrential storm, ringing out endlessly. Xiao! The flower bud suddenly blossomed and purple petals filled the air. When the sabers struck the petals, they gave off intense explosions. It sounded like firecrackers going off in the air. The petals filled the air as Xiao Chan moved in the air. When he passed through the petals, his speed would increase explosively. The ferocious sabers could not catch up to him. Explode! There was no clear target in this place. Naturally, Xiao Chan could not execute Wuxia supporting the heavens. He could only explode the energy. Xiao Chan shouted, and all the flower petals exploded. A huge amount of energy gathered together, and the entire gray space seemed to tremble. Quick! Quick! Find your saber! After Xiao Chan knocked back this wave of attacks, that urgent voice rang out in his ears again. He looked at the saber in his hand but still ignored it. The last time Xiao Chan saw through this sentence, he found the so-called saber in his heart. After that, he easily summoned out the lunar shadow saber. However, the voice rang out in his ears again and again. It was clear that the saber in his hand was not the saber in his heart. As Xiao Chan stood in this gray space, he ignored the voice in his ears. He knocked back the attacks of the sabers again and again. Each wave of attacks was more intense than the one before. Wounds started to appear on Xiao Chen's body. Just as Xiao Chen was about to reach his limit, the scene in front of him suddenly changed. After Xiao Chen repelled 100 waves of attacks, the scene before him suddenly changed. He felt his vision blur, and in the next moment, he appeared beside a lake. The full moon hung high in the night sky. The rippling lake water was very quiet. In the middle of the lake, there was a quiet saber floating on the water. The snow-white saber reflected the full moon in the sky. It was as if there was a full moon in the saber. It was quiet, melodious, and peaceful. The lake water, the full moon, and the saber all seemed very harmonious. It was magnificent. The wounds on Xiao Chen's body strangely disappeared. Xiao Chen did not care about this. He focused all his attention on that saber. A joyful expression appeared on Xiao Chen's face. He muttered, "Did I succeed? This is the true lunar shadow saber in my heart. How beautiful!" Pooh! Pooh! Xiao Chen leaped into the air and stepped on the water. He quickly headed for the saber floating in the water. Xiao Chen pushed off the water gently and moved 100 meters in one leap. After a while, he arrived below the saber. Ripples appeared on the lake water. Xiao Chen stopped and stood on the water. The full moon reflected on the saber was now clearly visible. Just as he was about to grab the saber, Xiao Chen, who was in the air, suddenly discovered a girl sleeping quietly under the water. Ao Jiao. When Xiao Chen saw the girl's appearance clearly, his expression changed greatly. He immediately turned around and dove into the water. He fell into the water, but when the beautiful woman in front of him reached her hand into the water, she only touched the ice-cold lake water. The rippling lake water made the girl sleeping in the water look hazy. Xiao Chen stopped moving and quickly calmed down. Ao Jiao has already entered a deep sleep and sealed herself. Hence all I see is an illusion. I have to grab the saber before I can truly wake her up. After making up his mind, Xiao Chen leaped out of the water and kicked up a splash. Then he tried to grab the lunar shadow saber. Just as Xiao Chen was about to grab the lunar shadow saber, a lily-white hand appeared out of nowhere. She grabbed the lunar shadow saber before Xiao Chen could. Xiao Chen was startled. He looked up and saw a white-clothed girl in front. Her figure was graceful. Her appearance was somewhat similar to Ao Jiao's. Her facial features were exquisite. When put together, they looked very beautiful. However, the expression on her face was somewhat otherworldly. There was no emotion at all. She was like a fairy who did not eat the food of the mortal world. She looked very similar to Duanmiking when he used the profound ice incantation. However, she seemed even more otherworldly than Duanmiking. Xiao Chun was astonished. This girl was the one Xiao Chun saw when he first entered the ancient absolute saber formation. Who is she? Why does she want to take away my lunar shadow saber? Chapter 338. The white-clothed girl held the lunar shadow saber in her hand. She looked very pretty. A hollow and clear voice rang out, "Who are you?" The lunar shadow saber's saber soul is not something you can casually obtain. Xiao Chun felt it was strange. He said, "You ask me who I am? I should be the one asking you who you are. I am the master of the lunar shadow saber. Am I not qualified to awaken the saber soul?" The white-clothed girl's exquisite face remained expressionless. She held the saber in her hand across her chest and spoke again. "What a joke! I am the lunar shadow saber. How come I did not know that I had a master? Whether I am qualified or not is determined by the saber in my hand." Xiao Chen's expression changed slightly. The situation had exceeded his expectations. He did not know why the girl in front of him had become the lunar shadow saber's saber spirit. Furthermore, she did not recognize him as her master. Xiao Chun grasped the saber in his hand tightly. His expression calmed down as he said, "As you wish. I will let the saber in my hand make you submit completely." The white-clothed girl's face remained calm. Her voice resounded as she said indifferently, "In that case, let me see if your saber can make me submit completely." Hu Qi. The white-clothed sword spirit's figure flickered in the air. Her body tore through space as though she had teleported. Suddenly, she appeared on the left side of Xiao Chun. Glittering Wuxia. The lunar shadow saber in her hand released a purple electric light. A purple saber chi containing the state of thunder flew towards Xiao Chun at lightning speed. Xiao Chun was greatly astonished. He did not expect this saber spirit to know his martial technique. Furthermore, the most shocking thing was that this glittering Wuxia also contained the state of thunder. Xiao Chen's figure flashed in the air as he quickly dodged towards the surface of the lake. He stepped on the water and retreated quickly. As Xiao Chun retreated, a huge force created two waves of water on the calm surface of the lake. Two thunderclouds started to gather in the sky above. One belonged to Xiao Chun and the other belonged to the white-clothed girl. The two of them started to compete with the state of thunder. When the thunderclouds clashed, there was a loud clap of thunder in the silent night sky. Pillars of water shot up from the surface of the lake, giving off loud bangs. In the air, countless streaks of purple lightning wandered wantonly in the air. My state of thunder merged with holy might is actually helpless against her state. Xiao Chun was somewhat astonished. Boom! When the two thunderclouds collided, the accumulated energy reached its peak. There was a loud sound, and a 100-meter-tall pillar of water instantly shot up from the water. Wuxia transforms to Qi. The white-clothed girl shouted and the divine Wuxia tree appeared from nowhere. It turned into hundreds of dense purple saber chi, piercing through the water pillar and flying at Xiao Chun. Wuxia transforms to Qi. Xiao Chun quickly moved back and similarly executed Wuxia transforms to Qi. Bang! 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 The saber chi that the two of them sent out clashed in the air. Intense explosions resounded. The berserk lightning-attributed energy in the air surged everywhere. This move was still evenly matched. No one could do anything to the other. The thunderclouds above the white-clothed girl started to churn quickly. After a while they formed a huge whirlpool of thunderclouds. The ferocious roars of a vast army came from the whirlpool, causing the sky to tremble. Unexpectedly, she knows this move as well. Xiao Chen's complexion turned ashen. This move was a combination of all the moves of the rushing thunder saber technique. He was very clear on the might of the rushing thunder roars. The thunderclouds above them also churned. Boundless thunderclouds churned and formed a huge electric whirlpool. The auras of the two of them rose ferociously. Rushing thunder roars, 10,000 horses galloping. The two of them roared ferociously at the same time. Countless electric knights leaped down from the electric whirlpool above them. They were like a vast army, carrying the might of thunder as they surged over. On the surface of the lake, the two thunder and lightning knights fought against each other and exploded. After a while there was a chain reaction. The 2,000-odd electric knights all exploded. These knights, which contained the state of thunder from both sides, created an energy that caused the surface of the lake to rise. It was as though the ground had been raised by 100 meters. A huge energy fluctuation spread out. Xiao Chun could not dodge in time and vomited a mouthful of blood. However, the white-clothed girl was not in a good state either. Her complexion turned extremely pale. At the same time, in the real world, the lunar shadow saber that Xiao Chun placed beside him started to tremble violently. All the weapons in the saber formation could not stop trembling as well. Rumble! A huge energy spread out in the dueling grounds. The entire ground shook left and right. Xiao Chun, who was in the ancient absolute saber formation, had a pained expression on his face. He vomited a mouthful of blood. Lu Suifeng's expression changed greatly. He asked in astonishment, "Sis, what's going on? Xiao Chun seems to be in danger. Should we stop the operation of the saber formation?" Lu Ruyue's pretty face was filled with worry as well. However, her eyes were strangely resolute. She shook her head and said, "There is no need. I believe that Xiao Chun will be able to pull through. The lunar shadow saber is undergoing a transformation. If we give up now, all our efforts would be wasted." Kill! Xiao Chun's fighting spirit was completely ignited. He did not believe that he would lose to the weapon spirit of the lunar shadow saber. The two of them leaped into the air above the rising water. A white and a purple figure intertwined in the air. Dang! 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 Under the full moon, saber lights flickered and a strong wind blew. The two of them were comparable in speed. In an instant they exchanged 100 moves in the air. When their weapons clashed, countless sparks flew. Although the white-clothed girl could not execute the movement technique that was exclusive to the blue dragon, she had her own movement technique. She seemed to be able to suppress Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun thought to himself, "I can't go on like this. Her essence seems to be inexhaustible. She knows all my martial techniques. It is hard for me to gain an advantage over her. If this drags on, I will exhaust my essence. Sooner or later, I will be defeated by her. I have to think of another way." Bang! Xiao Chun's sharp saber gave off a dazzling saber light. After he knocked back the white-clothed girl's saber strike, he quickly somersaulted. Xiao Chun executed the azure cloud soaring art to its limits. In the blink of an eye, he opened up a distance of several hundred meters. Xiao Chun pulled back the blue strip of cloth on his forehead. The scarlet throne mark on his forehead looked very alluring. It was even more beautiful than fresh blood. His delicate face immediately turned bewitching. In Xiao Chun's sea of consciousness, the scarlet throne started to surge. Strands of red light came from it. Xiao Chun finally used his true trump card, the state of massacre from the scarlet throne. A scarlet light flashed in Xiao Chun's eyes. As the state of massacre infused into the lunar shadow saber in his hand, strands of blood appeared. For the first time, the white-clothed girl revealed an expression of shock on her calm face. She felt a trace of fear. Hu Qi! Xiao Chun pushed off the water heavily. The state of thunder infused with the state of massacre carried a boundless killing intent as he charged forward. The white-clothed girl had a cautious expression. The lunar shadow saber in her hand glowed brightly, sending out resplendent purple saber qi. She stepped in front, trying to block Xiao Chun. "Break!" Xiao Chun shouted and a saber light flashed. The saber destroyed the sharp saber qi the white-clothed girl sent out, turning it into nothing. Xiao Chun flicked his wrist and tilted his body slightly. From a tricky angle, he stabbed his saber at his opponent's chest. Dang! The white-clothed girl held her saber horizontally in front of her chest. When the huge force struck the saber, she was immediately knocked back and flew a long distance above the water. Xiao Chun did not show mercy after gaining the upper hand. He swooped down and sent all sorts of sharp attacks at the white-clothed girl. Bang! 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 On the water, the white-clothed girl executed all sorts of techniques that Xiao Chun used. However, after Xiao Chun executed the state of massacre, all of them were easily shattered. Every move she made was broken. Her body, which was originally solid, slowly turned fainter, giving off an illusory feeling. The white-clothed girl was already in a losing situation. In less than 100 moves, she would be defeated by Xiao Chun. However, even at this point, the white-clothed girl still did not submit. She brandished her saber to block Xiao Chun's killing moves. Xiao Chun lost his patience. He no longer wanted to waste time with her. All he wanted was to obtain the lunar shadow saber in her hands and wake up Ao Jiao. Just as Xiao Chun was about to make a move to kill the white-clothed girl, a strong aura suddenly surged out from the lake. It covered the sky and the sun. A flood surged up and spread throughout the entire space. In an instant, it completely suppressed the state of thunder of Xiao Chun and the white-clothed girl. Even Xiao Chen's state of massacre was affected. He could not execute it normally. A huge whirlpool appeared in the middle of the lake. After a while, a pillar of water shot up into the sky. The water pillar was more than 500 meters long. The waves it kicked up were like rain falling onto the surface of the lake. A petite figure stood above the water pillar. It was Ao Jiao, who had woken up. Ao Jiao slowly floated down from the water pillar. Her voice came from above. Xiao Chun, don't kill her. Since Ao Jiao spoke, naturally Xiao Chun would not kill her. He sheathed his saber and retreated. When he saw Ao Jiao slowly land on the water surface, he said, Ao Jiao, what's going on? Unexpectedly, there are two weapon spirits in the lunar shadow saber. Ao Jiao was about to speak when she saw the thrown mark on Xiao Chen's forehead. Her expression immediately changed. She said sullenly, wait a moment. I will tell you in detail. You have to tell me about the massacre thrown on your forehead later as well. Chi. Right after Ao Jiao spoke, she shifted her gaze to the white-clothed girl. She stretched out her hand and pointed. The white-clothed girl's body became very faint, looking very illusory. The lunar shadow saber in the white-clothed girl's hand fell, and the illusory figure slowly sank to the bottom of the lake. Xiao. Ao Jiao stretched out her hand and grasped the slender lunar shadow saber. Boom! The towering water pillar crashed down. The waves on the lake surged for a long time before they slowly calmed down. Let's talk on the shore. After Ao Jiao spoke, she pushed off the water and headed for the lakeside. When Xiao Chun heard this, he did not say anything. He quickly followed. The two of them landed on a rock by the lakeside and found a clean spot to sit down. The waves on the lake's surface had disappeared. Now it was calm once again. Under the light of the moon, it was quiet and peaceful. Ao Jiao smiled gently and said, all right, idiot master. You can ask me any questions now. Xiao Chun smiled gently. Ao Jiao was still the same as before, not giving him any face at all. She did not care about her master at all. However, Ao Jiao's attitude was much more amiable than the white-clothed girl earlier. Her tone sounded more like a casual call from a girl. Xiao Chun organized his thoughts and asked, let's start with the white-clothed girl. How did she become the lunar shadow saber's weapon spirit? Furthermore, she does not recognize me as her master. Chapter 339. Ao Jiao smiled mischievously and said, this is called a long story. Let me explain it to you in detail. I will only say it once. If you do not understand, then don't ask. Ao Jiao said she would only say it once, so she would really only say it once. Xiao Chun could not do anything to her. He could only perk up his ears and listen carefully. The materials and methods used to forge the lunar shadow saber are the best. However, the conditions for a weapon spirit are too harsh. I originally thought that it would be impossible for the lunar shadow saber to form its own weapon spirit, so I sealed myself in it. However, things surpassed my expectations. While I was asleep, the weapon spirit in this lunar shadow saber started to slowly form. It has been in a state of coexistence with me. At that time, although I had sealed myself, I could split out some energy to suppress her, not letting her take the initiative. However, after she forcefully woke me up, I exhausted too much energy and fell into a deep sleep. In an instant, she took the initiative. If it were not for the battle between you and her exhausting too much energy, it would have taken me a long time to wake up. Xiao Chun suddenly understood. So that was the case. He had always found it strange. With Ao Jiao's strength, how could another weapon spirit take over the lunar shadow saber's saber soul? Then why does she not recognize me as her master? Furthermore, she seems to be hostile towards me. Ao Jiao explained, all weapon spirits are like this. This is the weapon spirit's way of protecting itself. When I was first born, I was unhappy with the Thunder King. If you were not strong enough, why would a weapon spirit recognize you as its master? However, once a weapon spirit recognizes a master, it will be loyal for life and will never betray you. Xiao Chan said doubtfully, in that case, what is your relationship with me now? You are much stronger than me. Doesn't that mean I will not be able to let you make decisions for a long time? Ao Jiao smiled and said, yes, so stupid master, you should quickly become stronger. If you can't even protect me, how can you be my master? Xiao Chun was speechless. Based on the strength that Ao Jiao displayed, she was at least a superior grade martial monarch. Xiao Chun did not know when he would be able to reach that level. Looking at Xiao Chen's pondering expression, Ao Jiao giggled and said, get up, stupid master. Don't think too much about it. I will first merge my saber soul with the lunar shadow saber in your hand. Then, you will be able to enter the state of listening to the sword and communicating with it. Xiao Chun got up and looked at the lunar shadow saber in Ao Jiao's hand. He asked in disbelief, it's that simple? Back then, for Xiao Chun to grasp listening to the sword and communicating with it, she had put in a lot of effort. However, she had not succeeded. In the end, she could only touch the edges and was unable to enter the next level. Ao Jiao smiled and said, that girl's method was correct. However, she did not take into account that there was another weapon spirit in your saber. The weapon spirit has an innate ability to protect itself and rejected your call. Hence, you have not been able to enter the next level. No wonder Xiao Chan kept feeling like he was pacing back and forth outside the door to listening to the sword and communicating with it. However, he could not push the door open. It turned out that this door was blocked by someone else. Hu Qi. Ao Jiao raised her hand and fired. The slender lunar shadow saber soared into the boundless sky. Spots of purple light surrounded it. Under the illumination of the moonlight, it looked very beautiful. The saber flew higher and higher. Soon, Xiao Chan could only see a blurry black figure. Xiao Chun looked up and asked, where is this flying to? How are we going to merge it? Ao Jiao said, of course it is flying to the real world. Otherwise, why do you think we are merging it in the space within the lunar shadow saber? Alright, when you get out, you will understand immediately. Now, it is time for you to tell me about the massacre throne. Xiao Chun withdrew his gaze and thought for a while. He decided to tell the truth. There was no need to hide these things from Ao Jiao. After Xiao Chan told her everything that happened in the ink forest, he asked, Ao Jiao, is there anything wrong with this scarlet throne? After Ao Jiao heard everything, she thought for a while before answering, there is nothing wrong with it. The scarlet throne was personally refined by the ancient evil king. However, before he was killed, he split the throne into 6. Each throne represents a will. They are the will of massacre, the will of destruction, the will of destruction, the will of rage, the will of berserk, and the will of death. According to rumor, when the 6 thrones merge together, the ancient evil king will rule the world once again. Xiao Chun muttered, are you saying that there are 5 other thrones? I only obtained 1? In that case, what should I do if I run into someone else with a throne? Ao Jiao nodded and said, that is the crux of the problem. As long as 2 cultivators with thrones are within 500 kilometers of each other, they will be able to sense each other's presence. The thrones are originally one, so they can swallow each other up. After swallowing, the might of the throne will increase greatly. Without needing Ao Jiao to explain, Xiao Chun already knew how much the swallowing of a throne would increase its strength. Each throne represented a state. Grasping 2 high-leveled states at the same time, the might of the throne went without saying. Xiao Chun did not fear competition from others. However, he was worried about what Ao Jiao said about the throne merging and the evil king's rebirth. He felt that it was strange. How reliable are the rumors? It has already been 30,000 years since the people of the ancient era. Could they have returned? Xiao Chun asked doubtfully. The Tianwu dynasty had existed for 20,000 years. It was destroyed 10,000 years ago, resulting in the current situation of the Great Jin nation dominating the continent. Before the Tianwu dynasty, there was a chaotic period. There were no detailed records of it in the history books. The period before the chaotic period was the true ancient era. It was hard to imagine. After 30,000 years, even the sea could turn into mulberry fields. Could humans still be revived? Ao Jiao said. The rumors are still credible. However, you don't have to worry too much. In the past 10,000 years, I have never heard of 6 thrones appearing at the same time. It is impossible for it to happen to you so coincidentally. Rumble. Rumbling sounds appeared in the sky. Xiao Chun looked up and saw that the lunar shadow saber had already flown to the edge of space. It was continuously breaking through the barriers of space. Ao Jiao said softly, the lunar shadow saber soul is coming out soon. You have to go as well. After you go out, remember to comprehend listening to the sword and communicating with it properly. This is just getting you started. Xiao Chun felt that there were still many things he had not said. He quickly thought about it and said the most important thing, in that case, can I wake you up at any time in the future? Ao Jiao shook her head and said, that won't do. I have to take this opportunity to swallow up the white-robed weapon spirit to prevent any future problems. Don't forget, my goal is to forge a subdivine weapon. Right now it is far from enough. In the real world, in the dueling grounds, the saber formation did not stop shaking at all. The lunar shadow saber beside Xiao Chen's hand leaped up and struggled free of its scabbard. With a sote sound, it flew into the air and floated quietly 100 meters above Xiao Chen's head. It gave off a bright light and looked very beautiful. Lu Suifeng asked in astonishment, sis, what's going on? Why did the lunar shadow saber fly out by itself? Lu Ruyue revealed a suspicious expression as well. She shook her head and said, I am not sure either. However, I feel that this should be a good thing and not a bad thing. I can feel that the lunar shadow saber has a faint excitement, like it is anticipating something. As the two of them spoke, a beam of light leaped out from Xiao Chen's head. Then, it flew into the lunar shadow saber at lightning speed. Xiao! Xiao Chun suddenly opened his eyes and leaped up. His body was like a flood dragon as he grabbed the hilt of the lunar shadow saber. Listening to the sword and communicating with it, Xiao Chun shouted and brandished his saber. The snow-white blade of the lunar shadow saber immediately gave off a drawn-out hum. The blade of the saber trembled uncontrollably. There was a flash of light and the snow-white blade turned pitch-black once again. It had actually advanced from an Earth-rank spirit weapon to an inferior-grade Heaven-rank spirit weapon. Xiao Chun held the lunar shadow saber and landed on the ground. He revealed a joyful expression. The lunar shadow saber finally gave off a sound that belonged to it. He did not expect that after using listening to the sword and communicating with it, the lunar shadow saber's spirit weapon rank would actually recover to its original state. Hu Qi! Xiao Chun moved his wrist gently and circulated the essence in his body. A strong force immediately came from the sharp blade. A strand of extremely dense purple saber qi broke through the blade and created ripples in the air. When it landed, it left behind a long mark. Bang! 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 After the saber qi stopped, the ground beside the mark immediately flew up and exploded into powder in the air. Lu Suifeng said in astonishment, what a strong might! Is this the original strength of the lunar shadow saber? It seems to be much stronger than a regular heaven-rank spirit weapon. All it took was a casual wave. Xiao Chun casually waved his hand and the scabbard in the saber formation appeared in his hand. He gently dispersed the state of listening to the sword and communicating with it. The pitch-black blade immediately turned snow-white once again, returning to being an earth-ranked spirit weapon. Xiao Chun had just comprehended listening to the sword and communicating with it. He could not maintain this state for a long time. However, after he started, he believed that he would improve very quickly in the future. Xiao Chun sheathed his saber and looked at Lu Ruyue, who was walking over with a smile. He said sincerely, Ruyue, thank you. Lu Ruyue felt happy for Xiao Chun. She said seriously, congratulations, you finally grasped listening to the sword and communicating with it. Qingyun Peak. Xiao Chun was in his independent courtyard. A cool breeze blew through the courtyard, lifting up the fallen leaves. Xiao Chun had his eyes closed and was in a mysterious state. His expression was calm as he placed his right hand on the saber hilt. He did not care about his aura. He allowed his aura and the cool breeze in the courtyard to fluctuate as they pleased, rising and falling, appearing very casual. Suddenly, Xiao Chun opened his eyes and a bright light shot out from them. It was like a sharp saber piercing through everything in front of him. The lunar shadow saber was instantly drawn, and listening to the sword and communicating with it was executed. The snow-white blade immediately turned pitch black. This was a characteristic of a heaven-rank spirit weapon. It was automatic. The instant the lunar shadow saber was drawn, there was no circulation of essence. A long strand of saber chi automatically flowed out from the sharp blade. With a so sound, it shattered several fallen leaves in the cool breeze. Listening to the sword and communicating with it had a total of 4 realms. Listening to the sword, controlling the sword, sword heart, and communicating with it. Xiao Chun was still at the listening to the sword realm. This allowed him to thoroughly understand his own weapon. This feeling was very wondrous. When Xiao Chun held the lunar shadow saber in his hand, he felt that the lunar shadow saber was like an extension of his arm. Chapter 340. Xiao Chun could feel every pulse of the saber. There seemed to be blood flowing in it. Of course, that was not real blood but spiritual energy flowing in the saber vein. Without comprehending listening to the sword and communicating with it, no matter how strong a person was, they would not be able to feel the pulse of the saber. As the essence slowly poured in, Xiao Chun could clearly see his purple essence flowing in the saber vein. With a thought, the saber lit up with a bright purple light. Withdraw. With another thought, the purple saber light immediately stopped. There was no separation at all. The circulation of the essence was faster than before. After dispelling the state of listening to the sword and communicating with it, the saber immediately turned snow-white again. Just like that, Xiao Chun repeatedly used listening to the sword and communicating with it in the courtyard. Earlier in the dueling grounds, after Lu Ruyue spoke to him, she immediately left. Xiao Chun felt that something was wrong. However, he did not know what was wrong. Hence, he did not intend to continue staying in the dueling grounds. Instead, he returned to the courtyard and tried to practice listening to the sword and communicating with it. He wanted to reach the stage of listening to the sword as soon as possible and enter the state of controlling the sword. That way it would be of great help in battle. Xiao Chun practiced until dusk. When Bai returned, Xiao Chun stopped practicing. He saw that Bai's hair had been trimmed up very well. She had 2 small braids on her forehead. The black hair at the back was tied up in a complicated fashion. Finally, she used a green hair clip to hold it up. This brought out Bai's delicate and pretty temperament, completely covering up her charm. It looks like this Xiao Ming is really attentive. Bai smiled gently at the side. Elder brother Xiao Chun, are you practicing? Bai has to practice as well. After she is done, she can protect elder brother Xiao Chun. When Xiao Chun heard this, he thought it made sense. After spirit beasts took human forms, they could practice human martial techniques and cultivation techniques. It was necessary to teach her some martial techniques for self-defense. In the universe ring, there were many spirit weapons that Xiao Chun had looted from the Jiang clan's treasure trove. Xiao Chun took them out one by one. There were sabers, dual sabers, short swords, dual sabers, and countless swords. Choose a weapon first. What kind of weapon do you like? Then I'll help you find a martial technique. Bai picked and chose among the large pile of soul weapons, and finally chose a sword that was 2 fingers wide and 5 feet long. This sword was called Skywater, and it was a high-grade profound rank soul weapon. Brother Xiao Chun, I choose this one, Bai said with a smile. Xiao Chun frowned slightly. He hoped that Bai would choose a saber. That way it would be easier to find the secret manuals. The huge heavenly saber pavilion might lack many things, but it did not lack saber-related secret manuals. Furthermore, the heavenly saber pavilion revered the saber. To a certain degree, swords were taboo. Even the heavenly saber pavilion's pavilion master, who once shook the world, had only used a piece of wood to carve a sword for the sake of cultivating the sword in his later years. Suddenly, Xiao Chun's eyes lit up. He recalled that aside from the great dragon tiger fist, and the dragon and tiger body sculpting art, the pavilion master had also left behind a heart-nourishing universe sword technique. This was a good chance for Bai to use. Xiao Chun rummaged around in the universe ring for a while before he finally found the heart-nourishing universe sword technique in a corner. Xiao Chun handed the secret manual over and said, "This secret manual is for you. Take it and read it first. If you have anything you don't understand, you can ask me." The heart-nourishing universe sword technique was a peak earth rank sword technique. In terms of might, it was not much weaker than Xiao Qin's Wuxia saber technique. After all, a martial technique that the pavilion master collected would not be something that an ordinary cultivator could find. Bai received it joyfully. She smiled and said, "Thank you, elder brother Xiao Qan. I will go and read it now. I will master it in 2 days. At that time, I will be able to protect elder brother Xiao Qan." As Xiao Qan watched Bai leave, he revealed a faint smile. This girl is too naive. Xiao Qan had seen a little of the heart-nourishing universe sword technique before. There was a total of 13 moves. Each move was harder to practice than the one before. The difficulty was comparable to the Wuxia saber technique. Back then, Xiao Qan had spent 3 days and only managed to learn the first 3 moves of the Wuxia saber technique. He was not even familiar with the 8th move. As for the 9th move, he had never thought of practicing it. How could Bai possibly learn all 13 moves of the heart-nourishing universe sword technique in 2 days? The days slowly went by. Xiao Qan practiced the Wuxia saber technique in the morning. In the afternoon, he practiced listening to the sword and communicating with it. At night, he cultivated the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's 5th layer, preparing to break through to the 6th layer. Time passed very quickly. Aside from the necessary rest time to prevent his body from overworking itself, Xiao Qan spent the rest of his time cultivating. Xiao Qan worked so hard for the sake of the end-of-year inner disciple ranking competition in a month's time. If nothing unexpected happened, he would help Qingyun Peak obtain the first rank to repay Lu Ryue's kindness. 6 days later, Xiao Qan was trying to practice the Wuxia saber technique's 8th move. Wuxia opens heaven in the back mountains. However, he could not merge the state and the mysterious phenomenon. He could not reach great perfection. Elder brother Xiao Qan, I succeeded in practicing the heart-nourishing universe sword technique, Bai said excitedly as she rushed over to Xiao Qan. When Xiao Qan heard this, he was startled. He was incomparably astonished. That is impossible. I have never heard of anyone being able to learn a peak earth-ranked martial technique within 6 days. Execute it once for me to see. Xiao Qan decided to verify its authenticity. Bai nodded her head heavily and drew the heavenly water sword. She brandished her sword, and her petite and exquisite figure moved quickly in the forest. In the forest, as Little White executed the heart-nourishing universe sword technique, the laws of heaven and earth seemed to become a little chaotic in an instant. As the sword moved, the surrounding trees actually moved strangely. However, these trees were still full of life. There were no strange phenomena. It was like the world spun around and space turned chaotic, resulting in such an effect. Xiao Qin's expression started to turn grave. He saw an indistinct blurry light at Bai's chest as the sword light danced. The shape of the light seemed to be the silhouette of a small sword. Sword heart. Xiao Qan blurted out in astonishment. Heaven was the sky, earth was the earth. After the heart-nourishing universe sword technique was executed, it would incorporate the heavens and earth into the sword technique. Every move of the heart-nourishing universe sword technique contained the heavenly Tao. When practiced to great perfection, it could even reverse the heavens and earth, truly changing the laws of heaven and earth. However, the crux of the heart-nourishing universe sword technique was the word, nourishing the heart. This so-called nourishing the heart was to use the power of the heavens and earth to temper an unparalleled sword heart with an absolute sharpness. As far as Xiao Qan knew, although there were very few people who could practice the heart-nourishing universe sword technique to great perfection, there had been some sword sages in history. With one sword strike, they could make rivers flow backward, tear through space, and cause tall mountains to spin. However, aside from the person who created this sword technique, Xiao Qan had never heard of anyone else successfully tempering their sword heart. Bai executed the 13 moves of the heart-nourishing universe sword technique, one by one. Sword chi surged in the forest, and countless fallen leaves flew everywhere. Bai sheathed his sword. The chaotic feeling of the forest spinning around him immediately vanished. He looked at Xiao Qin's silent appearance. Bai said somewhat nervously, "Xiao Qan, is Bai stupid? I said I would learn it in 2 days, but in the end I spent 6. Furthermore, it seems like I have not used it yet." Xiao Qan smiled bitterly to himself. If you are considered stupid, then how are the geniuses of the world supposed to live? This sword technique could only be considered a beginner. This was because the range that Bai could influence in the realm of heaven and earth was not very large. It could only be maintained within 10 meters of him. According to the records of the sword technique, when a martial saint practiced the heart-nourishing universe sword technique to great perfection, the range of influence could reach up to 500 meters. Bai was still far from that. Furthermore, he had not merged it with the state. This caused the might of the sword technique to be greatly reduced. However, to be able to use only 6 days to execute this sword technique and comprehend the sword heart, such a talent was simply horrifying. What Bai lacked now was only mastery and comprehension of his state. At that time, the might of the sword technique could be considered to have reached great perfection. Xiaochen smiled gently and said, "No, it is already pretty good. However, you still have to continue working hard. You are still lacking some mastery." Bai smiled joyfully and said, "Really? In that case, when can I be as strong as elder brother Xiaochen? At that time, when there are bad people, there will be no need for elder brother Xiaochen to make a move. Bai will help you chase them away." Xiaochen smiled speechlessly. He thought to himself, why did I let Bai protect me? I should not have let Bai practice martial techniques. Actually, it was for her own sake. As for Bai's future, Xiaochen already had a rough plan in his heart. However, he could not tell her about it for now. Go back first. Don't think too much. Remember not to let others see you practicing the sword technique, Xiaochen said. After all, practicing the sword technique in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was a taboo. Bai nodded and walked back in high spirits. She was clearly in high spirits. Seeing Bai leave, Xiaochen withdrew his gaze and said indifferently, "Bai is already so powerful. I have to work even harder. I cannot let her leave me behind. I have to completely grasp Wuxia opens heaven." 3 days later, Lu Suifeng came to Xiaochen's courtyard and told him a piece of shocking news. When Xiaochen heard the news, he felt very suspicious. He asked, "You said that the end-of-year inner disciple ranking war scheduled for the middle of next month has been delayed? Why is it like this?" Lu Suifeng was confused as well. "I am not sure either. The people from the Elders' Assembly did not say the exact reason. The end-of-year inner disciple ranking war has been a tradition of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion since it was founded. In the past 10,000 years, unless something major happened, I have never heard of the ranking war being delayed. The purpose of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's annual Inner Disciple Ranking War was not just to check the cultivation results of the inner disciples. It was also to maintain a healthy competition among the inner disciples. The most important thing was that the Heavenly Saber Pavilion would make use of this opportunity to display the strength of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion to the world. It would ensure its reputation as the top sect in the Shiha province. Every year, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion would send out invitations to the various powers and youths of the Shiha province. Even the officials would be invited. The purpose of this was to display the strength of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion and protect its reputation. If they suddenly delayed the end-of-year inner disciple ranking war, it would cause others to suspect that the Heavenly Saber Pavilion did not have any worthy inner disciples. That was why they delayed it. Chapter 341. All these unfavorable events were a huge blow to the reputation of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Unless they had no other choice, they would not postpone the competition. Lu Suifeng continued, "This matter is very strange. Until now there are no leads. Furthermore, even the outer disciple competition was postponed. This is very confusing." Xiaochen thought for a while and said, "There is no need to care about it. It is only postponed, not cancelled." "That's right, why have I not seen elder sister Ruyue recently?" Lu Suifeng hesitated for a while before saying, "Actually, the last time she used the strengthened ancient absolute saber formation, her essence was greatly injured. She will not be able to cultivate for half a year. Recently, she has been consuming spirit herbs to nourish herself. Otherwise, the losses would be even greater." Xiaochen was greatly startled. He had felt that something was wrong the last time. Turned out to be so serious. Naturally, Xiaochen knew the severity of the matter. He did not expect Lu Ruyue to make such a huge sacrifice for him. "Why did you not tell me earlier?" Xiaochen said with some blame. If he had known there would be such serious consequences, Xiaochen would not have accepted it. Lu Suifeng smiled helplessly. "I wanted to tell you, but my sister did not let me. Furthermore, even if I told you, would you still accept this kindness?" Xiaochen shook his head and wanted to get up to look for Lu Ruyue. Lu Suifeng quickly stopped him and said, "Don't go. My sister is very headstrong. Since she does not want you to know, just pretend that you do not know." Xiao Chun had no choice but to sit back down. The two of them chatted for a while before Lu Suifeng got up and took his leave. Xiao Chun did not feel anything about the inner disciple ranking competition being postponed. As long as it was not cancelled, it was fine. He was not in a rush to leave Qingyun Peak anyway. On the other hand, Lu Riyue had wasted half a year for him. This made him feel uneasy. If he still could not guess what Lu Riyue was thinking, he would be a fool. Everyone had emotions and desires. No one could truly transcend time. How could one pretend to be relaxed in the mortal world? That night, Xiao Chun stopped cultivating. He leaped up and landed on a big tree outside Lu Riyue's courtyard. The bright moonlight shone on the ground. Lu Riyue was in the courtyard, practicing her saber techniques as usual. Saber lights filled the place and energy surged. Now that Lu Riyue was a martial king, she could see that her saber chi was much purer than before. As the saber chi flew through the air, even the air seemed to be sliced apart, forming blurry ripples. Hu Qi! Without any warning, a strand of resplendent saber chi suddenly flew towards the tree where Xiao Chun was. It covered the distance of 500 meters in an instant. With a cracking sound, the thick tree was immediately cut in half, revealing Xiao Chun, who was hiding behind the tree. Lu Riyue flew over and saw that it was Xiao Chun hiding behind the tree. She heaved a sigh of relief and sheathed her saber. She asked, "Yichun, why are you hiding behind the tree?" Xiao Chun felt extremely embarrassed, and his delicate face immediately flushed red. His usual calmness had long since been lost somewhere. There was nothing more embarrassing than being caught peeping at someone. Xiao Chun stood on the broken tree and stammered for a long time before saying, "Indeed, why am I hiding here? This question is really strange." Lu Riyue looked at the embarrassed Xiao Chun and found it very funny. She smiled and said, "Actually, this tree has a heavenly spiritual energy. When one stands on it, one can calm down. It is a good place to comprehend bottlenecks." "Yichun, you are comprehending a martial technique, right?" Xiao Chun slowly calmed down and smiled, "And that's right. I did not expect Riyue to know this secret as well. This tree is indeed very useful. I nearly broke through my bottleneck." Lu Riyue's flirtatious face revealed a mischievous smile. She said seriously, "In that case, I have to apologize to you. I should not have interrupted you earlier and even broken this spiritual tree. I am truly sorry." Lu Riyue's tone caused Xiao Chun's flustered heart to calm down. He smiled faintly and said, "It's fine. The tree was broken, and the spiritual energy leaked out. It is a good opportunity to break through my bottleneck. However, this tree will be useless in the future." Lu Riyue nodded and said, "In that case, you should properly comprehend your bottleneck. I will come back tomorrow morning to take a look." Xiao Chun sweated profusely in his heart. This meant that he had to stand on this broken tree for an entire night. This tree did not really have spiritual energy. Even if he stood on it without moving, he would feel uncomfortable. "Hu Qi!" Xiao Chun leaped down from the broken tree and landed gently in front of Lu Riyue. Lu Riyue nodded and smiled. "Young hero Yi, why are you not continuing to comprehend your bottleneck?" Xiao Chun smiled embarrassedly. "Riyue, can you stop laughing at me?" Lu Riyue burst out laughing and said, "All right, I won't laugh at you anymore. Go in then. Why are you looking for me?" After they sat down in Lu Riyue's courtyard, Xiao Chun told her about what Lu Suifeng had told him. He told her about the matter of the inner disciple ranking competition being delayed. Lu Riyue said softly, "I know about this. There is no special reason for anyone to hold the inner disciple ranking competition. The manpower and resources required are huge. It would require the entire sect to do so. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion is unable to hold two grand events in such a short period of time." Xiao Chun felt suspicious and asked, "Are you saying that there is something even grander than the inner disciple ranking competition? What is it?" Lu Riyue nodded and said, "This matter is a secret for now. However, there is no problem telling you. Leng Liusu came out of closed-door cultivation. She is already a peak inferior grade martial king." Xiao Chun was slightly stunned before he reacted. Leng Liusu was only 17 years old, and she was already a peak inferior grade martial king. Aside from the word demonic, There was no other way to describe her talent. This was a realm that ordinary people could not reach in their lifetime. Unexpectedly, she did it at the age of 17. Furthermore, she was not just a martial king but a peak inferior grade martial king. The earlier a person became a martial king, the higher their future achievements would be. This was something that had already been proven. Back then, the Thunder King also became a martial king at the age of 17. At the age of 20, he became a martial monarch. At the age of 30, he saw through life and death and became a martial sage. At the age of 40, he became a martial emperor, ruling over the world. There were many experts in history. All of them had different characteristics. However, they all had one thing in common. They all became martial kings before the age of 20. If a cultivator could not become a martial king before the age of 25, their future achievements would be limited to that of a martial king. Back then, Murongchong had told Xiao Chan some things about Lung Liusu. He said that when she came out of closed-door cultivation, she would shock the world. It looked like it was true. The bloodline of the Saber Emperor was truly shocking. Lu Ruyue continued. The First Elder has already sent people to inform the three Holy Masters. He wants to make use of this opportunity to get the people from the three Holy Masters to come and help the Heavenly Saber Pavilion seal the spatial crack. The people from the three Holy Masters will come as well? Xiao Chun finally understood why the end-of-year inner disciple ranking competition was delayed. If the three Holy Masters really came, the inner disciple ranking competition would be insignificant. The three Holy Masters transcended the world. The legends of the three Holy Masters were spread all over the Tianwu continent. In the eyes of the people, they were an untouchable legend. They had existed since the ancient era. After tens of thousands of years, their strength was unfathomable. They were the last hope of the Tianwu continent. There were several known times in history, and in the end it was always the three Holy Lands who led the people to repel the demon race, continuing the seed of humanity. The arrival of the three Holy Masters would definitely shock the entire Great Qin nation. At that time, all the noble clans and sects in the Great Qin nation would come to pay their respects. If the geniuses of the various clans caught the eyes of the three Holy Masters, they would be very lucky. With the Holy Land taking care of them, their status would automatically rise. The three Holy Lands: Phoenix's Passion Palace, White Emperor City, and Divine Martial Gate. Xiao Chan did not know why, but he instinctively felt a little repulsed by them. Furthermore, he was a transmigrator. He did not have any intention of worshipping them, so he was not interested. However, the opportunity to see the strength of the people from the Holy Lands piqued Xiao Chen's interest. He wanted to see how strong a holy soul cultivator with an unbroken inheritance was. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen said, "Will the three Holy Masters come? If they come, which Holy Land will they go to? Phoenix's Passion Palace, White Emperor City, or Divine Martial Gate?" Lu Ruyue replied, "It is very likely that they will come. The three Holy Masters have been searching for geniuses all over the continent. With Lung Liusu's talent, she will definitely attract them. As for which Holy Land, I am not sure." After this topic ended, the two of them chatted for a long time. There were several times when Xiao Chun could not help but ask about her wasting half a year. However, he resisted in the end. Since Lu Ruyue was not willing to talk about it, he would just bury this topic in his heart and keep it to himself. As the night grew darker, Xiao Chan stood up and took his leave. He said, "I will go back first. No matter what, I will definitely obtain the top rank of the inner sect disciple rankings for Qingyun Peak." Lu Ruyue smiled gently and said, "In that case, I thank you for your promise in advance. However, if you want to come and see me in the future, just come in directly. Although there are many trees here, not all of them are filled with spiritual energy." Xiao Chan smiled faintly and said, "There's no need. I have already passed my bottleneck. To me, trees are no longer important." After the two of them spoke, they looked at each other and smiled gently. There was no need for words. To Xiao Chan, trees were indeed no longer important. Lu Ruyue had not only chopped down a tree outside the courtyard, she had also chopped down a barrier in Xiao Chen's heart. Since he liked her in his heart, then he should step forward openly. There was no need to suppress his feelings and think of all the worries. There was no need to be conflicted over whether to meet her or not. Regardless of whether he left Qingyun Peak or not, the person he loved was here. There was a worry in his heart. No matter where she went, they would know each other. After walking out of Lu Riyue's courtyard, Xiao Chun felt as though a huge stone had been lifted from his heart. He felt very comfortable. Although the two of them did not say it out loud, there was a kind of silent tacit understanding between them. They both knew each other's intentions. Xiao Chun slowly walked on the mountain path in the forest. Under the moonlight, he looked up and revealed a faint smile on his face. In the following days, aside from cultivating diligently every day, Xiao Chun would take some time out to come to Lu Riyue's courtyard at night. The two of them chatted about everything under the sun. There was nothing they did not talk about. They chatted happily. However, they mostly talked about their understanding of the martial way. Lu Riyue's accumulations as a martial saint were deep. This was especially so with her experience of breaking through to Martial King twice. She told Xiao Chun everything he needed to pay attention to when breaking through. Chapter 342. Advancing from Martial Saint to Martial King was a huge hurdle for early-stage cultivators. Once one crossed it, one would be able to enjoy the treatment of an expert anywhere in the Great Qin nation. The earlier one crossed it, the higher one's future accomplishments would be. Xiao Chun also told Lu Riyue about his comprehension of states, Xiao Qin's understanding of states. Now, aside from some of the older generation experts, no one in the younger generation could compare to him in the Great Qin nation. This allowed Lu Riyue to benefit a lot from it. When they got excited, it was hard to avoid arguments. The two of them would compare notes with each other, perfecting their understandings through actual combat. This kind of exchange was much more useful than Xiao Qin's usual thinking. After a week, Xiao Chun actually managed to completely comprehend the Wuxia opens heaven, which he had been unable to perfect in the past. The substantial gains in his cultivation allowed Xiao Chun to immerse himself in this kind of exchange. He would go to Lu Riyue's courtyard almost every night. On this particular day, as the two of them were chatting happily, there was a sudden explosion in the sky thousands of meters above the heavenly saber pavilion. In the dark night, 7 huge meteors descended from the sky above Qingyun Peak. As they descended, they destroyed the 81 restrictions that the heavenly saber pavilion laid in the sky. Ear-piercing alarms reverberated throughout the entire Lingyun mountain range. It was as though there was an emergency. It rang out continuously. Who? Occasionally, figures would soar into the sky from the 7 main peaks of the heavenly saber pavilion. A strong aura reverberated in the surroundings. Their fighting spirits soared, causing people to tremble in fear. The expressions of Xiao Chun and Lu Riyue changed. Unexpectedly, someone dared to barge into the heavenly saber pavilion so brazenly. Lu Riyue had a grave expression as she looked at the summit of Qingyun Peak. She said, "Neither of us should act rashly. A battle of this level is not something we can participate in." Even without Lu Riyue saying anything, Xiao Chun could feel that horrifying pressure. The 7 meteors contained the aura of a martial monarch. Just thinking about it caused one to tremble in fear. There were only 10 known martial monarchs in the entire Great Qin nation. However, at this moment, 7 martial monarchs arrived at the heavenly saber pavilion. The strength of one martial monarch could easily destroy a city. With 7 martial monarchs, they would be able to defeat an army of 1,000,000. Martial monarch, the monarch of martial arts, was not a title that could be casually given. Even in the Great Qin nation, which had many spirit veins, a martial monarch was considered an expert. Furthermore, in the Great Qin nation, there had been no news of a martial sage appearing in the past 1,000 years. Martial monarchs were already the peak combat power. If any sect or clan had a martial monarch, they would immediately become a first-rate faction. As for the figures that soared into the sky from the 7 main peaks, they were all superior-grade martial kings. Given Xiao Qin's cultivation, if he rushed up, the shock waves of the battle could crush him to pieces. Xiao Chun did not know how many martial monarchs the heavenly saber pavilion had. With this sudden crisis, he could clearly see the trump cards of the heavenly saber pavilion. Xiao Chun looked at the sky and asked doubtfully, "Why are these people here?" Lu Riyue muttered, "Divine weapon." Boom! The 7 meteors in the sky pierced through the restrictions of the heavenly saber pavilion. A fiery light spread out and countless sparks quickly shot into the sky. Bang! 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 The sparks fell like rain, covering nearly half of the heavenly saber pavilion. There were intense explosions on the ground. Surging shockwaves spread out and dust filled the air. Countless buildings were destroyed, turning into rubble. Many cultivators were struck by the sparks. Before they could react, they were blasted to pieces, dying without a complete corpse. The entire heavenly saber pavilion was in chaos. Many places were set on fire and the fire immediately spread. Sparks flew towards Lu Ryue's courtyard. When they saw the energy contained in the sparks, the two of them did not dare to clash head-on. They executed their movement techniques and dodged quickly. In the next moment, the previously perfectly fine courtyard was blasted beyond recognition. The shockwaves carried countless rocks over. The two of them turned around and sent out a few sharp saber chi, reducing the flying shockwaves and rocks to dust. After the sparks scattered, 7 middle-aged men in azure robes appeared before the crowd. 9 blue dragons were embroidered on their robes. The 7 of them emitted an overwhelming aura. Even Xiao Chun, who was a kilometer underground, felt a huge pressure. Many of the heavenly saber pavilion disciples on the ground, who were looking up, could not withstand this pressure. They fell to the ground, not even having the strength to get up. The aura of the 7 martial monarchs was equal to that of a martial sage. It could even stop the flow of a river. What more these martial saint cultivators? Who dares barge into my heavenly saber pavilion? Are you reckless? Hundreds of martial kings from the heavenly saber pavilion flew over. The person leading them did not show any fear when facing the 7 martial monarchs. Are you even worthy of speaking to us? One of the 7 green-robed martial monarchs snorted coldly and pointed. A ripple appeared in the air. After a while, it turned into a whirlpool and surged forward. Bang! The person who spoke was struck by the whirlpool and immediately vomited a mouthful of blood. He cried out miserably as he fell from the sky. A bona fide peak martial king could not even retaliate before a martial monarch. He was defeated with just a finger. This was truly frightening. When Xiao Chun felt the intense fluctuations in space, he said indifferently, "This is the power of space. Martial monarchs and martial kings are simply not on the same level. All of you withdraw." The first elder Jiang Qi led the peak masters of the other peaks and finally arrived. However, Xiao Chun did not see Song Quebec. However, when he thought about it, it made sense. Song Ke only had one arm now. He was no longer a peak martial king. The hundreds of martial kings that had gathered earlier quickly retreated to the side and watched from a distance. Even they could not participate in this battle. When Jiang Qi saw the attire of the 7, his expression turned grave. He said slowly, "My heavenly saber pavilion does not seem to have any grudges with you. Why are you here at my heavenly saber pavilion?" The leader of the 7 took a few steps forward in the air and said, "We are the Eastern Sea Divine Dragon Palace's 7 sage envoys under the Dragon King. I am Long Tuesday. We are here to borrow something from the heavenly saber pavilion." Jiang Qi had already guessed what they were here for. However, he still said coldly, "Is this the attitude you have when you want to borrow something? Big brother, don't bother speaking nonsense with him. They are just a bunch of half-step martial monarchs. Why bother with them? Just kill them. What is the heavenly saber pavilion? How dare they compare themselves to our divine dragon palace?" The person who made a move earlier said ruthlessly as a vicious look flashed in his eyes. Long Tu smiled gently and ignored this person's words. He looked at Jiang Qi and said, "My apologies, my 7th brother's temper has always been bad." His words were a little harsh. "I'm sorry, the heavenly saber pavilion has too many restrictions. We had no choice but to forcefully break through. As long as you are willing to lend us the item, I am willing to compensate the heavenly saber pavilion tenfold for all the losses." Jiang Qi said sullenly, "If you want to borrow the divine weapon, you can scram now. I will only say this once. If you leave now, I can pretend nothing happened. Don't think that you can do whatever you want in the heavenly saber pavilion just because you are an inferior grade martial monarch." When Long Tu heard this, his expression turned cold. He said, "Since ancient times, the divine weapon belongs to those who are capable. Today my Dragon King has taken a liking to this divine weapon. I will say this only once. Obediently hand over the divine weapon. Otherwise, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's 10,000 years of foundation will be destroyed. The seventh of the Divine Dragon Palace's 7 sage envoys smiled coldly and said, "Just a few half-step martial monarchs and you dare to say that you can keep us here? Do you not know how the word death is written? Old man, I will start with you." Boom! Just as he was about to make his move, 7 scarlet warships suddenly flew over from all directions. The scarlet flags on the bow of the warships fluttered in the night sky. The scarlet flags were as beautiful as fresh blood. Even the night could not hide them. Instead, the dark night made the scarlet flags look even more bewitching. A person stood under each of the flags. They wore scarlet battle armor and had a scarlet cape draped over their shoulders. A scarlet bloodsucker saber hung at their waists. They did not hide their killing chi at all. 7 waves of killing chi soared into the sky and merged together, forming a vast sea. At some point in time, the dark clouds above had been dyed scarlet like blood. The terrifying murderous aura was almost tangible. From time to time, the cries of ghosts and howls of wolves could be heard coming from the blood clouds. The people from the Divine Saber Camp had arrived. For the first time, the expressions of the 7 people from the Divine Dragon Palace turned grave. Xiao! Xiao! The figures on the bow of the warships turned into 7 beams of scarlet light and arrived behind the first elder Jiangqi at lightning speed. The Divine Saber Camp's first commander, Shi Mining, nodded slightly to Jiangqi. He said softly, "The Divine Saber Camp Shi Mining arrived late and caused the Heavenly Saber Pavilion to suffer losses." Jiangqi said indifferently, "It does not matter. It is good that you are here." When Long Tu saw the horrifying baleful aura of the 7 people, he was astonished. So, they are cultivators who use killing to prove their Tao. Could it be that they would cause others to feel fear? However, only 2 of them were martial monarchs. The other 5 were only half-step martial monarchs, so there was nothing to fear. Long Tu said sullenly, "The 6 of you go and get the divine weapons. I will block them." The other 6 people were very confident in Long Tu's strength. They did not hesitate and immediately headed for the summit of Qingyun Peak. Jiangqi's expression turned grave as he said anxiously, "Block them." The many martial kings who were watching from the side immediately rushed forward and charged at the 6 people. All sorts of high-ranked martial techniques gave off resplendent lights in the sky, surging forward. The 6 people each sent out a palm strike and an azure flood dragon appeared. The 6 flood dragons roared ferociously and crushed all the strong martial techniques flying at them into the air. After that, the blue dragon's might did not decrease. As it moved, it swept away dozens of martial kings. Then, it flew into the distance like a cannonball. Boom! The few martial kings were knocked back 2,000 meters. Their bodies crashed into a mountain peak, and there were a few loud sounds. The mountain peak immediately collapsed. The 6 of them only used one move to easily knock back dozens of superior-grade martial kings. After they withdrew their attacks, the blue dragon roared and returned to their bodies. So. 7 scarlet warships quickly flew towards the 6 people. 100 Divine Saber Camp elite disciples jumped off the warships and formed a 3-dimensional formation in the air. At the same time, they drew their bloodsucker sabers and roared ferociously. All their killing chi merged into one. Chapter 343. As the 6 martial monarchs moved in the formation, they immediately felt a huge pressure. Even though they had killed countless people in their lives, they still felt fear in their hearts. Furthermore, the formation of these 100 Divine Saber Camp disciples seemed to follow some sort of natural law, suppressing the strength of the 6 martial monarchs. The 6 martial monarchs charged around in the formation. Their horrifying strength was unstoppable. However, they strangely discovered that even though they were moving forward, they were moving in circles. They were unable to break through the encirclement of these 100 martial monarchs. Long Tu took a glance and ignored the situation. With the strength of the 6 of them, it was only a matter of time before they broke through this formation. The true threat came from the 7 people before them, especially the 2 inferior-grade martial monarchs. They were the Divine Saber Camp's deputy commander, Shi Mining and Zhuo Yan. Jiangqi and the others had already retreated far away. With their strength as half-step martial monarchs, they could barely participate in this battle. However, the Divine Saber Camp was very particular about cooperation. What they learned was completely different from what they learned. They could not participate in the battle at all. They could only watch from the sidelines just in case. Kill. The 7 of them attacked at the same time. The bloodsucker sabers in their hands released a scarlet light. Boundless scarlet clouds started churning in the sky. A sinister wind blew, and a baleful aura pressed down. Long Tu flipped his palm and a purple spear appeared in his hand. He swung it gently and ripples appeared in the air. An azure flood dragon coiled around the spear. The flood dragon opened its mouth and roared ferociously. It swung the spear 4 times in the air and blocked all the attacks of the 7. Hu Chi! Hu Chi! The weapons clashed and a horrifying energy spread out. Black cracks appeared in space. The few of them casually waved their hands and tore space apart. The black cracks extended for several kilometers before stopping. Everywhere the cracks passed, mountains were chopped in half. From the sky it looked like a biscuit that was bitten off by a dog. The few of them fought in the air faster and faster. Xiao Qin's eyes could not keep up with their speed. He could only hear deafening roars. Bang! On the battlefield, a streak of blood-red light was sent flying backward. A fist-sized hole appeared on the forehead of a Divine Saber Camp cultivator. He had been stabbed to death by Long Tu's spear. A moment later, cracks spread from his wounds, and his body was quickly torn into pieces. Haha! Again! The Divine Saber Camp is only as a... Long Tu raised his head to the sky and laughed heartily. As his voice rang out, another spear swept out. The purple spear seemed to have come to life. It turned into a blue dragon and swept out wildly. A Divine Saber Camp disciple sent out a scarlet light that connected heaven and earth, trying to block this horrifying attack. Before the azure flood dragon even got close, it let out a furious roar that contained boundless holy might, shaking this person to the point where he felt dizzy and his legs went weak. Bang! In the next moment, the green flood dragon turned back into a hard purple spear. A dot of purple light appeared on the tip of the spear. Long Tu tilted his body slightly and pushed his hand forward, shattering the blood-colored light with lightning speed. This person quickly turned around and retreated. His speed was comparable to that of scarlet lightning. Long Tu snorted coldly and swung his spear forward. His right hand grasped the tip of the spear. The range of the attack immediately increased significantly. With a horizontal swing, the spear struck this person's chest. This person vomited a mouthful of blood and flew back. He did not have time to control his direction and crashed into the spreading spatial cracks. This person could not resist at all and was cut into pieces by the spatial cracks. At the same time, the sharp attacks of the other 5 people filled the sky with scarlet light. The horrifying killing moves containing the state of massacre flew at Long Tu. Soaring dragon! Long Tu pulled back his spear and shouted. Suddenly, 9 azure flood dragons flew out of his body. As the 9 dragons soared, a supreme will of wind was contained in the azure flood dragons. Bang! 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 The flood dragon roared furiously, and the will of wind sprayed out, stirring up a gale and blowing away the torrential state of massacre. No matter how strong the state of massacre was, it was just a state in the end. It was not a match for a higher-leveled state unless the people of the Divine Saber Camp comprehended the state of massacre. As the 9 dragons soared, the berserk energy contained a power that could destroy heaven and earth. It forced everyone back. This was especially so since the state was broken. The might of the killing move was greatly reduced. There was no rebound at all. Long Tu laughed maniacally and the 9 dragons returned to his body. His figure flashed and he arrived before a Divine Saber Camp cultivator. He thrust his spear forward and a black hole appeared in the air. The power of this spear was very berserk. It directly pierced through space. The supreme will of wind started to spread out from the tip of the spear. A fist-sized black hole immediately spread out. Long Tu's figure flashed and he entered the spatial crack. In the next moment, a crack appeared in front of the retreating cultivator. A spear carrying an unparalleled force suddenly appeared from the void and pierced towards the cultivator's forehead. This spear came out of nowhere without any warning. There was no way to defend against it. It was a sure-hit attack. Dang! Just as the spear was about to pierce through the cultivator's forehead, a scarlet saber flashed from the side. The saber struck the tip of the spear. However, the will of wind on the tip of the spear prevented it from moving at all. Ximening's chaotic and unfocused eyes suddenly focused. 2 crimson dots appeared in his eyes, making him look extremely strange. The horrifying state of massacre on the saber started to increase rapidly. Finally, it exploded and formed a strand of will of massacre. Boom! The horrifying spear was finally knocked away. That cultivator took advantage of this opportunity to quickly retreat. Long Tu grasped the handle of his spear and slowly emerged from the spatial crack. He looked at Ximening and smiled faintly. Not bad. You actually managed to evolve the state of massacre into the will of massacre. However, it is just a strand. Let's see how you are going to block my will of wind. Ha! Long Tu's spear swept out and a purple light burst out from the tip. Strands of purple wind blades appeared and tore cracks in space. Everywhere the wind blades passed, the cracks extended continuously. The pitch-black cracks were like a flower blooming. A horrifying flower filled with the power of death. Ximening had a grave expression. He did not say anything. His scarlet pupils released a strange light. He brandished his saber and knocked back the purple wind blades. Countless wind blades were sent flying, creating long black spatial cracks in the air. Many of the idle martial kings in the air could not dodge in time and were immediately cut in half by the spatial cracks. The power of the spatial cracks was not something an ordinary martial king could deal with. However, the force of the wind blades was too strong. Every time he knocked back a strand, Ximening immediately moved back 100 meters. His complexion also turned increasingly pale. When the Divine Saber Camp's deputy commander Zhuoyan saw that Ximening was in a dangerous situation, he quickly flew over and worked together to knock back the scarlet wind blades. Long Tu laughed loudly and a purple flood dragon appeared on his spear. He charged at the 2 of them quickly before he ignored them. Long Tu shifted his gaze to the other 3 half-step martial monarchs of the Divine Saber Camp. He casually tore and a spatial crack appeared. Then his figure flashed out. Bang! 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 Long Tu executed the shocking spear strike that contained the will of Berserk Wind 3 times in a row. The 3 half-step martial monarchs had condensed their state of massacre to its limits. However, there was a natural difference between states and wills. They could not move the spear at all. Furthermore, Long Tu hid himself in the spatial crack. No matter where he hid, he would always appear beside them. Be it behind, to the left, to the right, or even to the front, he would thrust his spear at them. Bloody holes appeared in the heads of the 3 half-step martial monarchs with this shocking spear strike. They could not be any more dead. At this moment, Ximening and Zhuoyan were still fighting against the soaring green flood dragon. The flood dragon was 100 meters long and its green scales were crisscrossed. Both of its eyes flashed with spiritual light as if it was a real flood dragon. The flood dragon roared ferociously as it wantonly flew in the air. As its dragon claws tore, it left thin cracks in space. Occasionally, it would spit out strands of azure dragon flame. Ximening and Zhuoyan turned into 2 beams of scarlet light. As they dodged the flood dragon's attacks, they left wounds on its body. When the saber technique containing the state of massacre struck the flood dragon, the wounds would not heal. The flood dragon's figure slowly faded. It would not be able to last much longer. After Long Tu dealt with the 3 half-step martial monarchs, he looked around and saw that the azure flood dragon was about to run out of energy. His expression did not change as he swung his spear through the air. A purple light gathered at the tip of the spear, and a long spatial crack appeared. Long Tu turned around and disappeared into the night sky. Ximening and Zhuoyan, who had dealt with the azure flood dragon, did not have time to catch their breaths. Suddenly, a crack appeared above their heads. A purple spear containing a strong will of wind exploded in the air, descending towards the 2 of them. Dang! Ximening and Zhuoyan quickly moved to the side. They crossed their scarlet sabers in the air and blocked the spear strike that could split mountains. Long Tu's figure emerged from the spatial crack. He laughed loudly and shouted, "You are like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. You think you can block it? Scram!" Long Tu's right hand, which was holding the spear, exerted some force. A purple light spread out from the tip of the spear. Instantly, the flood dragon carved on the spear glowed brightly. The will of wind became even more berserk. Bang! Ximening and Zhuoyan both vomited a mouthful of blood. The bloodsucker sabers in their hands could not withstand the force. They flew out of their hands and fell to the ground. Scram! With a roar, Long Tu's figure rapidly leaped forward. The space beneath his feet was like flat ground. Every step he took left a purple footprint in the air. Long Tu brandished his spear and struck Shimening, Zhuoyan and Zhuoyan's chest. Their bodies flew backward and crashed into a mountain a kilometer away, destroying half of it. When Xiao Chun saw all this, horror filled his eyes. At the same time, he was filled with doubt. They were all martial monarchs, but why was Long Tu able to beat the other martial monarchs to the point where they could not retaliate? Chapter 344. With a casual move, he could easily tear space apart. When his spear swept out, there was no way to block it. As for those half-step martial monarchs, they were as simple as slaughtering dogs. One spear for one without any hesitation. Will. Suddenly, a light flashed in Xiao Qin's mind. He remembered what Long Tu said. This was because of the will. It was just like how a martial saint who comprehended a state could easily kill a martial saint who had not comprehended a state. To a martial monarch, the state could no longer keep up with the development of their strength. Only a higher level will could bring out the might of a martial monarch. Lu Ruyue's eyes filled with anxiety. Occasionally, she would look at the summit of Qingyun Peak. The summit was currently very calm. It was very peaceful. First Elder, should we call out those supreme elders? This Long Tu's will of wind has clearly reached great perfection. Shimening and Zhuoyan are not a match for him. Indeed, if we still do not call out those supreme elders, there will be no chance to turn the situation around. The peak masters of the main peak said anxiously. Jiang Qi's expression turned grave. He ignored the words of these people. After a while, he shook his head and said, "The Divine Saber Camp still has not used their trump card. The enemies that the Supreme Elder wants to deal with are not these people. Let's wait and see." Boom! 2 scarlet lights shot up from the ground. Shimening and Zhuoyan started fighting again. So, the two of them stretched out their hands and the bloodsucker sabers immediately returned to their hands. The killing chi of the two of them spread out continuously. Their red cloaks fluttered in the air. The blood on their lips had not dried yet, but their faces were extremely pale. Long Tu looked at the two of them and smiled coldly. "You are at the end of the road, yet you are still putting on an act. Die." Xiao Chun swung his spear in the air and disappeared into thin air again, appearing very mysterious. Peerless blood shadow. Shimening and Zhuoyan shouted and the sabers in their hands moved in an arc. A scarlet crescent moon appeared on the tip of their sabers. Xiao Chen's gaze turned grave as he looked carefully. Back then, Murongchang's peerless lunar shadow was born from this peerless blood shadow. Now that he had executed the original martial technique, its might should not be weak. However, it was hard to say whether it would be able to injure Long Tuesday. Long Tu was in the void, and there was no way to track him. After executing the move, their pale faces turned even paler, without the slightest hint of blood. The 2 blood-colored crescent moons whistled through the air, but they disappeared in a flash and actually entered the void. Poochie! In the void, there was a violent explosion. A pitch-black hole was torn open and a red light shone out. Bang! The instant the red light shone, the spatial crack rapidly expanded. A red full moon broke through the space and leaped out. In an instant, the scarlet light illuminated the entire Lingyun mountain range. The cultivators with better vision could see an azure figure moving quickly in the black hole in the sky. If they looked carefully, they would discover a trace of blood leaking out of the corner of his mouth. Xiao Qin exclaimed in shock, "Peerless blood shadow." Unexpectedly, not only did it stop Long Tu's attack, but it even injured him. The black hole quickly closed. The instant it completely closed, a resplendent purple light appeared out of nowhere in the sky. Long Tu was about to break through space and come out. Shimening and Zhuoyan's gazes were like lightning. The instant the purple light appeared, they quickly formed hand seals. Strands of perception locked onto each other. Long Tu's figure had just appeared when the scarlet full moon in the sky charged at him with a startling state of massacre. The speed of the full moon reached its peak. Everywhere it passed, space turned blurry and ripples appeared. Bang! Long Tu did not have any chance to dodge. His face filled with shock. The tip of his spear shone brightly as he thrust it forward. wanting to shatter this scarlet moon. However, the energy contained within this full moon was simply too vast. The two of them exhausted their essence and forcefully condensed their states into strands of will, infusing them into the full moon. Such a secret technique that forcefully raised one's state would have severe side effects on the body. However, at this moment they could not care so much. Unexpectedly, Long Tu's successful will of wind could not block this move. His body was instantly covered by the scarlet moon as he crashed heavily into the ground. Rumble! A 1,000-meter-wide pit immediately appeared at the foot of Qingyun Peak. Dust flew into the air and a huge force spread out. The entire Qingyun Peak started to shake violently. It was easy to imagine how terrifying this power was to be able to shake an entire mountain. Shimenying's complexion paled. He could not help but vomit another mouthful of blood. He ignored his injuries and said coldly, "Attack." Right after he spoke, the 7 scarlet warships in the sky released a scarlet pillar of light that soared into the sky, connecting with the scarlet clouds in the sky. The trump card of the divine saber camp was finally going to be revealed. The endless red clouds began to tumble and surge, becoming brighter and brighter, as if blood was flowing through them. In an instant, a horrifying state of massacre spread throughout the entire Lingyun mountain range. It caused all the cultivators present to tremble. At the same time, the martial kings of the various noble clans in the Shiha province all felt this aura. They all soared into the sky and looked at the boundless scarlet clouds in the direction of the heavenly saber pavilion. Their expressions all changed. What's going on? The divine saber camp's heavenly profound blood-slaughtering formation has been executed. What's happening in the heavenly saber pavilion? I have not seen the divine saber camp for hundreds of years. Now they are making a move. What is going on? Many figures gathered in the sky. They could not resist the curiosity in their hearts as they quickly flew towards the heavenly saber pavilion, the great Qin nation's imperial capital, where everyone was preparing to sleep in the middle of the night. Suddenly discovered 10 huge golden warships had appeared in the sky at an unknown time. They were flying quickly to the west. A golden flag fluttered on the bow of the warships. There were 9 golden dragons embroidered on the flag, and the word Qin was written in the center. Among the 10 warships there was one that was especially huge. It was 1,000 meters long and 100 meters wide. Golden talisman scripts flickered around the hull of the warship. There was a person standing on the bow of the warship. He was 7 meters tall and looked very energetic. His aura was like a rainbow as he soared into the sky. The light he gave off was so dazzling that it seemed like it lit up the night sky. This was the leader of the Imperial Dragon Legion, the leader of the 10 martial monarchs of the great Qin nation, the Nangong clan's clan head, Nangong Lai. The entire Imperial Dragon Legion actually turned out in full force. In a secret room 1,000 meters below the imperial capital's imperial palace, an old man with white hair and beard suddenly opened his eyes. A golden light flashed, as though he could see through the essence of this world. It is actually the people of the boundless sea. Ha. However, is the divine weapon really that easy to obtain? If it were so easy, this old man would have made a move long ago. How foolish. After a while, the golden light scattered and the old man closed his eyes again, ignoring him. Long Tu slowly stood up in a deep pit at the foot of the heavenly saber pavilion's Qingyun Peak. His azure robes were already in tatters. His hair was disheveled, and blood leaked out of the corner of his mouth. He was in a sorry state. Ha. Good. Very good. You actually managed to injure me. It looks like you are seeking your own death today. I want the divine weapon. I will kill everyone in the heavenly saber pavilion, not leaving a single person alive. Long Tu looked at the boundless churning scarlet clouds above him and wiped the blood off his lips. Then he laughed maniacally. Long Tu's aura soared continuously. A horrifying might spread out into the surroundings without any concealment. His aura did not stop growing until it reached peak superior grade martial monarch. When the might of a martial monarch spread out, the grass grew stiff and the trees broke from the ground. The boundless aura crushed them into dust. Several heavenly saber pavilion disciples vomited a mouthful of blood under this horrifying might and fainted. Unexpectedly, this Long Tu was a peak superior grade martial monarch. When everyone saw this, their expressions changed greatly. When the first elder Jiangqi, saw Long Tu unleash his full aura. His expression changed slightly. He had not expected Long Tu to be a peak superior grade martial monarch. What should we do now? Long Tu is actually a peak superior grade martial monarch. First Elder, get the Supreme Elders out. Otherwise, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion will suffer great losses, the people at the side said in unison. Jiang Qi's gaze was deep as he looked into the distance. There were countless experts from various places watching from a distance. Jiang Qi withdrew his gaze and shook his head. We can't do it yet. Let's hold on for a while. Let's see if the heavenly profound blood-slaughtering formation can suppress him. Suddenly, the boundless scarlet clouds in the sky started churning very quickly. After a while, a blurry face formed in the scarlet clouds. Only half of the face appeared. The other half merged with the scarlet clouds. A huge scarlet hand suddenly appeared. The palm of the scarlet hand was the size of a small mountain, and half of the arm was over 1,000 meters long. It smashed towards Long Tu, who was on the ground with a soaring aura. Long Tu's expression turned grave. Although he was arrogant, he was not a fool. When the huge hand landed, his figure flashed and quickly retreated. Bang! The scarlet hand left a huge handprint on the ground. The outline of the 5 fingers was very clear. The deepest part of the handprint was more than 100 meters deep. Hu Qi! The scarlet hand gently raised its hand and used the back of its huge hand to move towards Long Tu's day. Long Tu moved like lightning, moving quickly in the air. Bang! The back of the scarlet hand gently touched a desolate mountain. Half of the mountain immediately turned into powder, and half of the mountain was gone. With such a huge force, no wonder Long Tu did not dare to clash head-on. Instead, he chose to avoid it. The scarlet hand was like a human arm. When it moved, it was incredibly fast. It was no slower than Long Tu, who had comprehended the will of wind. Furthermore, under the suppression of the heavenly profound blood-slaughtering formation, the baleful aura in the air affected Long Tu's speed. He could not shake off the scarlet hand. A purple light appeared on the tip of the spear, and Long Tu tore open a spatial tear in the air. When the spatial tear closed, he entered it. Long Tu hid in the spatial tear, and he immediately disappeared from the night sky. The blurry face on the scarlet clouds frowned slightly. Then it roared. Although it was a roar, it was as intense as thunder. When it opened its mouth and breathed, it formed an intense tornado in the air. The huge scarlet hand pulled back slightly, and its 5 fingers clenched the air. In that instant, a spatial tear appeared, and half of the arm entered it. Chapter 345. Bang! 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 Loud sounds came from the spatial crack. An intense shockwave exploded in the air. Many black cracks appeared out of nowhere, spreading out like black streams in the air. Long Tu tore open a spatial crack and quickly emerged from it. His expression turned even more grave. Clearly, he had not expected this scarlet hand to be so difficult to deal with. The instant Long Tu emerged, he suddenly felt a chill on his face. When he turned his head back, he saw a huge scarlet hand crashing into him. It was the scarlet giant's hidden second arm. It shot out at lightning speed and opened its huge hand, grabbing Long Tu in an instant. The huge hand grabbed Long Tu's body and smashed him into the ground. It did not stop at all, causing the entire Lingyun mountain range to shake. Some of the old buildings could not withstand this force and collapsed. Countless cracks appeared on the ground, spreading out in all directions. The mountain peaks were directly blasted apart by the cracks, forming a huge crack in the sky from the center. Did he succeed? He was caught. With such horrifying force, he should have been smashed into meat paste, a few elders said joyfully. Jiang Qi shook his head slightly. He could sense that the other party's aura had not weakened at all. Instead, it had become even more vigorous. Pa! The other scarlet hand also emerged from the void. Then the 2 palms clapped ferociously. When the 2 palms merged, they had the strength to smash a small mountain into powder. When the 2 palms merged, even if the other party was an impregnable fortress, he should have been smashed into meat paste. Boom! Right after the palms clapped, an even more intense sound rang out. It was like a sudden clap of thunder, causing everyone's eardrums to burn and their internal organs to tremble. The sky was filled with bloody light exploding. Specks of bloody light sprinkled on the ground like raindrops. The two huge bloody hands were completely blown to pieces. 9 azure flood dragons circled around Long Tuesday. He smiled coldly and said, "Is that all you have? The heavenly profound blood-slaughtering formation is only SOSO. Ha ha ha. Watch me break this formation." It turned out that Long Tu had not made a move all this while, because he wanted to test the limits of the Scarlet Hands. Now that he knew their limits, he no longer feared them. Hu Qi. Without the interference of the huge Scarlet Hand, Long Tu's speed completely recovered. He was so fast that the human eye could not even react to it. In the eyes of a regular cultivator, it was like teleportation. Xiao Chun brandished his spear, and 9 azure flood dragons circled around and roared. Then, he headed for one of the scarlet warships. A scarlet light descended from the sky and enveloped the scarlet warship, forming a thick, solid scarlet light. "Break!" Long Tu roared, and 9 azure flood dragons merged into the spear. The purple spear immediately lit up with a resplendent, fiery light. It was like a purple sun in the night sky, so bright that no one dared to look at it directly. Xiao Qin's figure instantly vanished. A moment later, a huge, bloody hole appeared in the blood-colored pillar of light. The pillar of light shattered, and the blood-colored warship inside broke in half and fell to the ground. "Break, break, break, break!" Long Tu roared 6 times. His figure appeared and disappeared unpredictably in the void. His dazzling purple spear carried a destructive force as it pierced through the 7 blood-colored warships in an instant. No matter how powerful your magic skills are, how profound your formations are, or how vast your killing chi is, I only need to use one spear to stab you. I will use absolute strength to form an overwhelming attack. After the 7 warships were destroyed, the boundless scarlet clouds in the sky immediately dimmed. The scarlet giant sighed and slowly faded from the sky. Ha 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 ha. The heavenly saber pavilion is so useless, yet you dare to speak such arrogant words, looking down on the divine dragon palace. What other abilities do you have? Bring them all out. I Long Tu will break them with one spear. After destroying the 7 warships, Long Tu laughed maniacally. His voice was like rushing thunder, resounding everywhere. The entire heavenly saber pavilion could hear this arrogant voice. Such humiliation caused the blood of the heavenly saber pavilion disciples to surge. As one of the 3 great sects, when had they ever been humiliated like this? However, even though they were hot-blooded, they did not have the strength to back it up. They could only feel sullen in their hearts. After the heavenly profound blood-slaughtering formation was broken, the 100 elite divine saber camp disciples surrounding the other 6 sage envoys immediately showed flaws in their formation. The 6 sage envoys grasped the flaws and used their strength to charge around. In an instant, they broke through the encirclement of the 100 divine saber camp disciples. Most of the disciples died from severe injuries. "Big brother, do you need our help? Let's just destroy the heavenly saber pavilion together," the 7th sage envoy of the divine dragon palace said coldly, his eyes filled with hostility. Long Tu said indifferently, "There's no need. The 6 of you go and retrieve the divine weapon. That side is the main point. I can handle this alone." The 6 of them nodded and immediately rushed to the top of Qingyun Peak at lightning speed. When the peak masters and elders saw this, they said anxiously, "First elder, if the supreme elder still does not come out and the divine weapon is stolen, the heavenly saber pavilion will perish." The first elder had a resolute gaze as he said sullenly, "It is not time yet. The true enemy has not appeared yet." Boom! 2 figures soared into the sky from the ground. It was Shimaning and Zhuoyan. They rushed over again and blocked Long Tu, who was preparing to destroy the heaven viewing platform's main hall. Ding! 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 The 2 of them gave off a red light and their eyes turned scarlet. Their strength increased wildly. They had actually used the minor heavenly demon body separating technique, which burned their life force. Their state of massacre was forcibly raised to the state of massacre. Their cultivation also soared to peak medial-grade martial monarch. When the 2 of them worked together, they managed to block Long Tu's surging attacks. "How dare you clash with the righteous sects with unorthodox sects?" Long Tu snorted coldly. His spear sent out blurry spear images, like countless azure flood dragons roaring in the air. Even though the 2 of them executed the minor heavenly demon body separating technique, they could only hold on bitterly. This Long Tu was a peak superior grade martial monarch, only a step shy of becoming a martial sage. He was simply too strong. Unless a martial sage appeared, no one could defeat him. Boo! The 6 azure-robed sage envoys landed firmly on the summit of Qingyun Peak. Lu Tianyu sat cross-legged on a rock at the summit. His wrinkled face opened slightly when he felt the 6 of them land. His gaze was calm. He looked like an old man with a serene expression. A wooden box stood quietly beside him. The words, like the emperor descending personally, were carved on it. The 7th of the 7 sage envoys cursed. Pfft! I was wondering who the person guarding the divine weapon was. It turns out that it is just a cripple with a shattered martial spirit. Old man, hand over the divine weapon, and this Lord 7 will not make things difficult for you. I will send you on your way, and not let you feel any pain. Otherwise he... Wuxia. The 4 wooden boards on the wooden box shattered and fell to the ground. The divine weapon, the heavenly universe saber, floated quietly in the air. Lu Tianyu stretched out his hand and grasped the hilt of the divine weapon, the heavenly universe saber. His calm gaze suddenly lit up, and his aura soared into the sky. In an instant, he revealed his sharpness. With a cautious sound, the divine weapon was unsheathed. A dazzling light dazzled the eyes of the 6. A saber light flashed by. Before the 7th of the 7 sage envoys could finish speaking, a bloody wound appeared on his neck. His head flew into the air. He died without knowing why. There was no pain at all. The other 6 were astonished. When they saw the unsheathed divine weapon, they fled for their lives. They were shocked. Didn't the Dragon King say that the divine weapon could not be completely unsheathed? How did this old man manage to completely unsheath the divine weapon? This was completely beyond their expectations. The might of the divine weapon could even kill a martial sage. They were only martial monarchs. How could they dare to be impudent? They used all their means to flee. Long Tu, who was suppressing Shiman Ing and Lu Tianyu, changed his expression. He forced the 2 back with one move. Then he moved as fast as lightning, heading for the summit. In the blink of an eye, Long Tu arrived at the summit of Qingyun Peak. When he saw the unsheathed divine weapon, he revealed an expression of shock. Xiao! Lu Tianyu remained expressionless as he watched Long Tu fly over. He gently brandished the heavenly universe divine weapon, and a simple resplendent saber chi flew at Long Tu's day chi. Chi! Everywhere the saber chi passed, space was sliced in half. The empty space was like a piece of tofu, sliced in half from the middle. Long Tu's expression changed drastically. This was no longer a power that he could control. Even if he used his full power, he could only tear a crack in space. If he were to view space as a rock, he could make a crack on the rock, but the other party could easily cut the rock in half like tofu. The will of the divine weapon had already locked onto Long Tuesday. He had no chance to dodge this saber strike. Ha! The purple spear lit up with a resplendent light. A crescent-shaped azure energy appeared. The will of wind in the energy was condensed to the extreme. Countless cracks appeared in the void. Long Tu used all his strength to block this move. Wuxia. There was no earth-shaking sound or overwhelming energy fluctuation. That strand of saber chi that sliced through space easily destroyed Long Tu's full-powered strike. At the critical moment, a jade pendant on Long Tu's chest burst out with a bright light. It emitted a solid light barrier that encased him. It was not strange for a martial monarch expert to have 1 or 2 life-saving secret treasures. Bang! The light barrier instantly shattered, and the jade pendant on Long Tu's chest shattered into tiny pieces. Blood leaked out of the corner of his mouth as he flew back a kilometer. The sharp saber chi did not lose any momentum. It flew quickly towards the horizon, flying all the way to the distant starry heavens before disappearing from everyone's sight. Big brother, are you all right? Long Tu asked anxiously as the other 6 caught hold of him in midair. The 6th of the 7 sage envoys said, Big brother, are we still going to retrieve the divine weapon? 7th brother is already dead. The situation had changed too quickly. Just a moment ago, Long Tu was still in high spirits, wanting to sweep through the entire heavenly saber pavilion. Now, he was easily defeated with 1 saber strike and severely injured. At the summit of Qingyun Peak, Lu Tianyu still sat cross-legged on the rock. His body did not move at all, and his expression was calm. The divine weapon returned to its scabbard with a huang-dang sound. The first elder Jiang Qi had a suspicious expression. He could not understand how Lu Tianyu managed to draw the divine weapon. Boom! Chapter 346. Lu Tianyu held the divine weapon in his right hand as he stood upright on the ground. Then he pointed with his left hand. Several dozen strands of saber qi revolved around his fingertips. The saber qi spun continuously, shooting at the 6 people in the air like an awl. In the pitch-black night sky, the awl-like rotating saber qi tore a spatial crack that was even darker than the night sky. The 6 people immediately scattered in the air. They executed their movement techniques and moved around, trying to avoid this strand of saber qi. Lu Tianyu's right hand, which was holding the divine weapon, flipped his palm over and faced it downwards. The divine weapon spun quickly and the condensed saber qi immediately scattered, chasing after the 6 people. The sharp saber qi danced wildly in the air. It was so fast that it was like silver lightning tearing open spatial tiers. The 6 people executed their movement techniques to their limits. The people below could not see them at all. They could only see a blurry light flickering in their vision. Miserable cries came from the air. The sharp saber qi was hard to defend against. It broke through the protective essence of the 6 people and left horrifying wounds. Using the might of the divine weapon, Lu Tianyu toyed with the 6 people in the palm of his hand. Hu Qi! Just as the 6 people were covered in injuries and were bitterly holding on, there was an intense spatial fluctuation. Suddenly, an intense spatial fluctuation appeared. Above the 6 of them, a huge spatial gate suddenly opened. Seeing the spatial gate open, the 6 of them immediately became overjoyed. A huge azure dragon image peeked out from the door. It opened its huge mouth and swallowed the 6 people. After that, the huge dragon head quickly retreated into the spatial door. Lu Tianyu snorted coldly. You think you can come and go as you please? Who do you think my heavenly saber pavilion is? Boom! Lu Tianyu held the divine weapon in his right hand and threw his left hand into the air. His ordinary arm immediately grew infinitely large. Just as the azure dragon was about to enter the spatial door, Lu Tianyu exerted force with his left hand and grabbed the dragon head. He exerted force with his left hand and grabbed the dragon's head. The dragon's head shook and roared, causing the sky to tremble as it tried to break free. The scabbard of the divine weapon gave off a bright light. Lu Tianyu's left hand seemed to have the power to tear the sky apart. No matter how the dragon shook and roared, it did not move. Get back here! Lu Tianyu shouted and pulled with his huge hand, pulling the huge blue dragon out of the spatial door. Bang bang bang! The huge azure dragon image's 1,000-meter-long body tumbled in the air, shattering countless mountains and pavilions in an instant. Boom! Lu Tianyu had a grave expression on his face as he swung his huge hand behind him, tossing the horrifying dragon image towards the desolate back mountains of the Lingyun mountain range. A towering mountain peak was smashed into smithereens by the dragon. The ground in the distance was covered in dust and rocks flew everywhere. The image of the dragon slowly dissipated. The 6 people in the dragon head vomited blood from the immense force. Their injuries worsened as they struggled to stand up from the ground, wanting to escape. The first elder's expression turned cold. He said, Divine Saber Camp, heed my orders. Do not let a single one of them off. Roger. The red figures on the ground quickly leaped towards the back mountains of the Lingyun mountain range and surrounded the 6 severely injured people. After Lu Tianyu pulled the huge dragon out, he looked at the spatial door that was about to close. A murderous intent appeared in his eyes as he drew the heavenly universe saber again. A strand of resplendent golden saber qi shot out from the saber. Just as the spatial door was about to close, it shot into it. Hu Qi! Millions of kilometers away in the boundless sea, a strand of golden saber qi suddenly appeared in the sky above an island. Then it headed for the splendid palace on the island. Everywhere it passed, the buildings of the palace crumbled. The golden saber qi directly chopped them in half. Several unlucky green-robed cultivators were chopped in half for no reason. The golden saber qi cut through everything like a hot knife through butter. It immediately flew to the main hall of the palace. A middle-aged man in azure dragon robes sat on a dragon throne in the main hall. This person looked very majestic with a high nose and large eyes. He exuded the air of a ruler. With one look, one could tell that he was a person of high status. His chi and blood flourished and his eyes shone brightly. When the middle-aged man saw the golden saber chi breaking through the palace and flying towards him, his expression turned grave. He clenched 2 fingers on his right hand and shouted. A strand of azure-colored dragon chi came from his fingertip. The dragon head on the fingertip roared ferociously. It finally blocked this indestructible and unstoppable golden saber chi. Bang! The azure-colored dragon chi and the golden saber chi clashed, giving off an intense explosion. The raging energy immediately reduced the entire main hall to rubble. Only a lonely dragon throne remained in the vast palace. Blood leaked out of the middle-aged man's lips as he sat on the dragon throne. His complexion was somewhat pale. That strand of golden saber chi had not scattered yet. It clashed continuously with the azure-colored dragon chi at the fingertip. The middle-aged man shouted and suddenly stood up. Then he pushed his arm forward. There was a melodious explosion, and the golden saber chi turned into countless motes of light. The motes of light were like a torrential storm as they spread out in all directions. The cultivators that rushed over were covered in wounds, their bodies mangled. 7 strong figures blasted the motes of light into nothing and landed beside the middle-aged man. When they saw the blood leaking out of the middle-aged man's mouth, they were astonished. The Dragon King, who was like a god to them, was actually injured. All of them quickly knelt down and said in fear and trepidation, "This subordinate is incompetent and caused the Dragon King to be injured." The middle-aged man known as the Dragon King took out a handkerchief and slowly wiped the blood off his lips. Then, he looked at the handkerchief and entered deep thought. Then he casually tossed the handkerchief into the air. There was an explosion of energy, and the handkerchief immediately turned into countless pieces of cloth. He said softly, "Get up. From today onwards, the 7 of you are the new holy envoys of the divine dragon palace." The hearts of the 7 people kneeling on the ground trembled. They did not feel any joy. They knew that the 7 holy envoys that went to the heavenly saber pavilion probably would not return. 7 martial monarchs had died. The divine dragon palace had suffered a heavy loss. The Dragon King looked into the distance, his eyes filled with infatuation. He muttered to himself, "The strength of the divine weapon is indeed strong." Unfortunately, this person did not even bring out 1/10 of its might. Back in the heavenly saber pavilion, Lu Tianyu, who had just executed his shocking saber strike, immediately sheathed the divine weapon. The scattered wooden boxes pattered back together, completely covering up the aura of the divine weapon. Under the rock, countless black tentacles extended all over Lu Tianyu's body, making his face look very sinister. Lu Tianyu frowned and closed his eyes. Then he started an endless battle with the tentacles. Reporting to the first elder, the 6 people who barged into the heavenly saber pavilion put up a stubborn resistance. The divine saber camp suffered heavy casualties and could not capture them alive. "We could only kill them," a divine saber camp high official reported in a sullen voice as he flew to Jiang Qi's side covered in injuries. Even though the martial monarchs were severely injured, the destructive power of the divine saber camp still shocked this high official. Jiang Qi looked at the scene of desolation, the dead and injured heavenly saber pavilion disciples, and the rubble of the Lingyun mountain range. He said with a sullen expression, "Chop off their heads and hang them on the city walls of Saber City forever." "Roger." That person replied and immediately left to carry out the order. Not long after the man had left, the first elder's expression suddenly changed. The expressions of the peak masters and the members of the elders' council, who were following behind the first elder, all changed at the same time. They saw 10 golden warships outside the heavenly saber pavilion's restrictions flying towards the heavenly saber pavilion. When they were about to touch the restrictions, they accelerated. Bang! 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 The golden horn of the ship was like a sharp knife. 10 sharp knives slowly broke through the tough restriction, and a deafening explosion resounded between heaven and earth. The Imperial Dragon Legion's flagship is actually flying over. What is Nangong Lai trying to do? A few of them exclaimed. Jiang Qi said calmly, "Pass the orders to the Supreme Elders. Tell them to come out and welcome them." After Jiang Qi spoke, he led the group towards the warships in the sky. They were as fast as the wind and arrived before the flagship in the blink of an eye. Jiang Qi looked at Nangong Lai, who was clad in golden battle armor and had an exuberant qi and blood soaring into the sky. He said coldly, "Nangong Lai, what are you trying to do?" Under the fluttering golden banner, Nangong Lai looked at the devastated Lingyun mountain range. He smiled gently and said, "Brother Jiang, there is no need to be anxious. I just saw that the Heavenly Saber Pavilion is facing a great enemy, so I came to help. With the Imperial Dragon Legion's help, we will be able to eliminate the remnants." Jiang Qi smiled coldly. "Many thanks for General Nangong's kind intentions. The enemy has already been dealt with by the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. General Nangong can return now." Nangong Yen laughed loudly. "I have good intentions. Brother Jiang, why are you chasing me away in such a rush? Today's enemies have already been defeated. What about tomorrow and the day after? Such a huge loss. I'm afraid the Heavenly Saber Pavilion will not be able to endure it for long. How about this? Our Imperial Dragon Legion will send a warship to guard the Heavenly Saber Pavilion for a long time, helping the Heavenly Saber Pavilion to defend against the enemy. The Imperial Dragon Legion is still quite strong." Hu Qi. Hu Qi. Right after Nangong Yen spoke, aside from the largest flagship, the other 9 warships opened their cannons on both sides. Ancient demonic energy cannons revealed their malevolent faces. Countless golden talisman scripts appeared around the warship, flickering with a dazzling light. The few elders behind Jiang Qi all had sullen expressions. Rage burned in their hearts. Nangong Lai was blatantly threatening the Heavenly Saber Pavilion after seeing the heavy losses. The royal clan and the 3 great sects had always been on guard against each other. The royal clan of any empire did not wish to see a power that could threaten the royal clan. However, aside from being on guard, the sects and the royal clan relied on each other to a certain extent. There had to be strong sects within a nation. The more sects there were, the stronger the nation would be. However, there was a precondition. The royal clan had to have absolute power to suppress these sections. Otherwise, they would always be a hidden danger in the eyes of the royal clan. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion, which possessed a divine weapon, was such a sect. 20 years ago, the previous pavilion master of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was an absolute genius. The sect was filled with talents and experts. The sect was the strongest of the 3 great sections. With the might of a divine weapon, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was a peak power in the entire Tianwu continent. The people of the royal clan felt immense pressure. However, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was not very lucky. When the demonic calamity broke out, nearly all the experts of the older generation died. The genius pavilion master even died in battle. The strength of the entire sect was greatly reduced. Chapter 347. In order to prevent the resurgence of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, the royal court had been looking for an opportunity to make a move. Now, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was in trouble again. The Qin Emperor decisively made a move, wanting to station a warship in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. This was like stabbing a sharp knife into the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. It could greatly restrict the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's development. Jiang Qi's expression remained calm when he saw the golden warships firing on all cylinders. He said indifferently, "Nangong Lai, it looks like you really like to play with fire. In that case, I will play with you." Nangong Lai's eyelids sank. He thought to himself, could it be that the Heavenly Saber Pavilion still has some trump cards? Impossible. Nangong Lai shook his head and said indifferently, if they really had a trump card, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion would not have been reduced to rubble. How could a great sect watch as their own sect was destroyed like that? Even if they had won, they would have used it already. After the consecutive battles, they probably did not have much combat prowess left. Nangong Lai continued to smile indifferently. "Brother Jiang Qi, it was not my idea to station a warship in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. You should know whose idea it is. I hope you will not make things difficult for me." Jiang Qi said indifferently, "In that case, get him to come and talk to me personally." Before Nangong Lai could say anything, an adjutant at the side shouted, "How dare you speak to His Majesty like that? Is the Emperor someone you can meet whenever you want? How dare you speak to Elder Jiang Qi like that?" Why are you still not apologizing to Elder Jiang? Nangong Lai pretended to reprimand the adjutant. After that, he turned to Jiang Qi and smiled. My subordinate did not know the rules. I will teach him a lesson for Brother Jiang later. Jiang Qi's expression was very calm. His eyes did not change. He said indifferently, there's no need. He is already dead. Nangong Lai's expression changed. He looked to the side and saw a tiny wound on the adjutant's neck. The faint wound looked negligible to the naked eye. The adjutant did not feel any pain. He did not even notice the wound on his neck. You want to take my life? You cannot do that, the adjutant said indifferently as he looked at Jiang Qi. However, the adjutant saw shock in Nangong Lai's eyes. The adjutant turned his head to look suspiciously. However, he saw a headless corpse wearing golden battle armor standing behind him. Why does this corpse look so familiar? The adjutant's last thought as his head flew into the air. Bang! Nangong Lai punched the air in front of him to his right. This punch was clearly in the air, but it produced a deafening sound. The huge battleship shook uncontrollably under the force of this punch. The void shattered, and a blood-red figure emerged from the crack. He wore a ghostly mask with a faint smile on his face, and his right hand held a cold mask. The scarlet figure gently floated and appeared at the top of the ship like a ghost. When Nangong Lai saw this person, his expression turned grave for the first time. He exclaimed in shock, Shimanjan, you are actually not dead yet. Shimanjan was the previous commander of the Divine Saber camp. Now he was more than 190 years old. Before he went into seclusion, he was already a peak medial grade martial monarch. Shiman smiled faintly, little brat Nangong, do you really wish for this old man to die? Boom boom boom. From the east, south, west and north, four powerful auras rose one after another. These auras soared into the sky, spreading out endlessly. They were all the auras of peak superior grade martial monarchs. When Nangong Lai saw these people, his expression changed drastically. He muttered to himself, Shan Manjun, the previous two peak masters of Jade Maiden Peak, Xiaofeng, the previous peak master of Qianduan Peak, Songbai, the previous peak master of Biyun Peak, and Lu Xiaohe, the previous peak master of Gongyu Peak. Not only were these people not dead, but their auras were also flourishing. Their qi and blood surged. Clearly, they had not gone through a huge battle. They were all at their peak. Among the four, a white figure slowly floated over. It was the Jade Maiden Peak's Shen Manjun. Nangong Lai looked at the otherworldly Shen Manjun and did not dare to be impudent. Before he became famous, she had already become famous throughout the entire Great Qin nation. When Nangong Lai was young, he had even secretly worshipped Shen Manjun. Originally, he thought that she had died long ago. He did not expect her to appear before him in one piece. Nangong Lai Jiang Qi said that the Qin emperor cannot come personally. In that case, can I make the request? Shen Manjun asked indifferently as she looked at Nangong Lai. Nangong Lai cried bitterly in his heart. He had not expected the Heavenly Saber Pavilion to have 5 martial monarchs in perfect condition. Furthermore, there was a martial monarch who was even more horrifying than him. With the strength of the Imperial Dragon Legion, it was not impossible to defeat these people. However, the price they would have to pay would be too high. Furthermore, the Qin Emperor did not intend to destroy the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. He only wanted to take advantage of the situation and suppress the other party's strength, taking things step by step. It was not an all-out war with the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Starting a war with a sect would have too many implications. It would be hard to avoid the suspicions of the other two great sections. Nangong Lai's expression kept changing. After a while he slowly calmed down. He smiled gently and said, Senior Shan, this is really just a misunderstanding. Since the Heavenly Saber Pavilion has resolved its crisis, the Imperial Dragon Legion has no intention of remaining. After Nangong Lai spoke, he took out a row of wooden chests and said, There are 10,000 medial grade spirit stones here. Consider it compensation for the Imperial Dragon Legion for breaking the restrictions. Goodbye. Jiang Qi received the wooden chests and felt humiliated in his heart. He wished he could smash the wooden chests into smithereens. Shen Manjun, who was beside him, placed her hand gently on his shoulder. A gentle wave of essence spread over, calming his agitated heart. Jiang Qi quickly thanked her. Many thanks, ancestral martial ant. Jiangqi is useless, causing the heavenly saber pavilion to be humiliated several times. Shun Manjun smiled gently and said, "You have already done very well. Don't blame yourself. There is still hope for the heavenly saber pavilion. The news of the 3 holy masters should arrive tomorrow." The 10 golden warships of the Imperial Dragon Legion immediately turned around and left. Before the gazes of the experts of the Shiha province, they slowly withdrew from the Lingyun mountain range. He came and went in and out in a hurry. Many people scratched their heads as they watched, not knowing what was going on inside. The Imperial Dragon Legion came out in full force. It was clear they wanted to take advantage of the situation. However, not long after they entered, they retreated safely. It did not seem like there was a dispute. Halfway up Qingyun Peak, Xiaochan saw all this. He shook his head and thought to himself, in the end, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion has declined. Although the Imperial Dragon Legion left behind 10,000 medial-grade spirit stones, they could come and go as they pleased. In the eyes of the world, it was easy to tell who was strong and who was weak. Lu Ruyue looked at her ruined courtyard and shook her head. She smiled bitterly and said, "Yi-chan, I am homeless now." Xiaochan collected his thoughts and smiled gently. "You can come to my place and stay for a while. There are still empty rooms in the courtyard. You can come back after the courtyard is repaired." Lu Ruyue smiled and said, "It is settled then. I will go to the summit to see my father first. I will see you tomorrow." Xiaochan was slightly stunned. He did not expect Lu Ruyue to agree so straightforwardly. Originally, he was just saying it casually. By the time he recovered his wits, Lu Ruyue had already gone far away. Xiaochan revealed a faint smile and shook his head slightly. Then, he quickly headed to his courtyard. This unprecedented battle gave Xiaochan a lot of thoughts. This was the first time he saw the true destructive power of a peak human cultivator. The so-called splitting mountains, moving rivers, and draining seas were not just legends. In the past, he had only heard of it. Now that he saw it for himself, he truly felt the shock in his heart. Furthermore, this was only the strength of a martial monarch. There was still the martial sage Emperor Wu. Just thinking about it made his blood boil. I still have a long way to go. Sooner or later, I, Xiaochan, will become such an expert. No, I will be stronger than these people. I will rise to the heavens and reach the peak of cultivators. My name will be spread through the ages, just like the Tianwu Emperor from 10,000 years ago, and the Thunder King from 1,000 years ago. Xiao Qin's emotions surged. He swore in his heart that he would definitely achieve this. The sun was high up in the sky. The weather was pleasant. There were no clouds in the sky. In a place with abundant spiritual energy in the back mountains of Qingyun Peak, Xiaochan sat cross-legged on the ground. He slowly circulated the purple thunder divine incantation. The purple essence circulated quickly in his meridians, breaking through all the obstacles along the way. It was an endless cycle. There were 9 main meridians in a cultivator's body. When a cultivator condensed their martial spirit, they would instantly open up. The 9 main meridians were very important. They were the foundation of a cultivator's cultivation. The so-called essence circulating in the meridians was actually a cycle in the 9 main meridians. After that, as a cultivator's cultivation realm increased, there would be new branch meridians outside of the main meridians. The number of branch meridians in the human body could be said to be as many as the stars in the sky. With every increase in cultivation realm, there would be many more branch meridians. These branch meridians were the expansion of the main meridians. It was like the countless branches of a tree. The more branch meridians there were, the more flourishing the tree would be. It was the same principle for cultivators. The more branch meridians there were, the more vigorous and surging the essence in the body would be. The so-called essence circulating in a great cycle referred to the essence circulating in the 9 main meridians once before going to the various branch meridians and returning to the dantian. It grew and multiplied endlessly, forming a virtuous cycle. After every cycle, the quality and quantity of essence qi would increase. This was the essence of cultivation. However, Xiaochan felt a headache over this branch meridian. He felt very depressed. Not long ago, Xiaochan relied on the rich spiritual energy of the Lingyun mountain range to finally reach the peak of the 5th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. Just as he was preparing to break through to the 6th layer, Suddenly, he discovered that the branch meridians required to cultivate the sixth layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation were not fully opened. 4 of them were still sealed. This way, the path of the sixth layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation would be incomplete. There was no way to form a cycle, and he would not be able to cultivate the sixth layer. Now there were 2 solutions. The first was to temporarily give up on cultivating the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. He would wait until his cultivation realm increased and these branch meridians opened up before he attempted to break through. In reality, most of the cultivators in this continent did the same. This was because many cultivation techniques had very strict requirements on cultivation realms. Furthermore, the person who created the cultivation technique did not do it on purpose. Only when one reached the corresponding cultivation realm and cultivated the corresponding cultivation technique could the cycle progress gradually. It would not result in a situation of spoiling things through excessive enthusiasm. Chapter 348. There was another method, which was to use essence to forcefully open these minor meridians. Once the minor meridians were opened, he could cultivate the sixth layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. This way, Xiao Qin's strength could increase rapidly in a short period of time. However, the difficulty of breaking through was not mentioned. Forcefully opening 4 minor meridians in one go would definitely leave behind some hidden dangers. If not dealt with properly, it would greatly affect his cultivation in the future. After the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation circulated a major cycle in his body, Xiao Qin opened his eyes. A purple light flashed in his eyes, illuminating the dark forest for an instant. The light flashed for a moment before it was hidden in the depths of his eyes. As he looked at the purple lightning-attributed energy in the air, Xiao Qin casually waved his hand. The purple energy instantly formed a whirlpool and gathered on his palm, forming a clump of purple flame. Xiao Qin pushed his hand forward and purple flame shot out. The trees in front of him were silently burned to ashes without a sound. Bang! In the end, the purple flames crashed into a mountain wall and immediately blasted open a large hole with a diameter of 100 meters. The mountain gently shook a few times and a piece of rock fell down with a crashing sound. A casual strike could have such an effect. In the past, Xiao Qin would have been a little proud. However, after seeing the strength of a peak martial monarch, Xiao Qin knew that this was not worth mentioning. In the eyes of a true expert, it was like child's play. Recollecting his thoughts, Xiao Qin stood up and muttered, "I am now a peak medial grade martial saint. I need to open 4 minor meridians. When I advance to superior grade martial saint, I will open one of the minor meridians. When I advance to peak superior grade martial saint, I will open another one. When I advance to martial king, I will open the remaining 2. That is to say, I can only truly cultivate the 6th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation when I advance to martial king." This was a difficult choice. Forcefully breaking through would be risky. If I waited until I advanced to martial king, it would waste too much time. Never mind, I will not think about it for now. I will go back and discuss it with Lu Ruyue and hear her opinion. Xiao Qin shook his head slightly and stopped thinking about this problem. Then he walked towards his courtyard. At this moment, 3 days had passed since the startling battle in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. During these 3 days, everyone in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was very busy. They repaired the destroyed palaces and buildings, and also treated the unlucky disciples who were affected by the aftermath of the battle. As for the elders, they were even busier. Not only were they busy giving orders to these trifling matters, but they were also very busy. He also had to calculate how great the loss was this time, comfort the people, compensate the families of the deceased, and so on, a series of things that he had to worry about. In these 3 days, all sorts of rumors about the Heavenly Saber Pavilion spread throughout the Shiha province. Many experts had personally witnessed the sudden heavy losses. Furthermore, the Imperial Dragon Legion could enter and leave the Heavenly Saber Pavilion as they pleased. There was no way to hide this. As the rumors spread, they became even more ridiculous. Someone said that the Supreme Elders of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had all died in battle, more than half of the core disciples were dead, and the first elder was killed by the enemy. All sorts of rumors magnified the losses of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. When Xiao Chan thought about the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's decision to postpone the inner disciple ranking competition at the end of the year, he could not help but think that the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had declined. A portion of the small sects and clans that maintained a subordinate relationship with the Heavenly Saber Pavilion also felt uneasy. What made Xiao Chan feel strange was that the Heavenly Saber Pavilion did not provide any explanation for these rumors. They did not care about the rumors in the outside world. They focused all their attention on repairing the destroyed buildings and treating the disciples. In Xiao Chen's opinion, although the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had declined, it was still the strongest power in the Shihe province. They had 5 supreme elders who were martial monarchs. This already left the other powers far behind. Furthermore, there was a mysterious expert who wielded a divine weapon. Furthermore, they firmly controlled a spirit vein that could continuously produce spirit stones. With such accumulations, their position as the strongest sect in the Shihe province could not be shaken. In this disaster, the only one that suffered a greater loss was the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's Divine Saber Camp. However, although the 2 commanders were severely injured, they survived in the end. However, Xiao Chan could not be bothered with these things. He only thought about them when he was bored. He spent most of his time cultivating. Even without circulating his movement technique, Xiao Chan moved very fast. Before he knew it, he had arrived at his courtyard. Lu Ruyue and Bai were currently playing Gamoku at the stone table in the courtyard. Gamoku was something that Xiao Chan had created when he was bored. It could be considered a nostalgia for that world. Whenever he had free time, he would play a few rounds with Bai. Bai was very intelligent. She only needed to explain the rules to learn it. Furthermore, she improved very quickly. It would not be easy for Xiao Chan to defeat her now. Xiao Chan walked over quietly and looked at the situation on the board. Unexpectedly, Lu Ruyue had the upper hand. Bai was busy thinking of countermeasures. She looked very adorable. Lu Ruyue looked at Xiao Chan beside her and smiled gently. "You're back. Seems like your strength has improved again." Xiao Chan smiled and replied, "I ran into some trouble. You play first, I will discuss it with you later." When Bai saw Xiao Chan arrive, she immediately smiled joyfully. "Elder brother Yi-chan, quickly teach me how to play. Elder sister Ruyue is too incredible. I have not been able to defeat her even once." Ever since Lu Ruyue arrived, Xiao Chan told Bai to call him by his alias. Although Bai did not understand why, she still did as she was told. Xiao Chan gently patted Bai's head and smiled. "Use your own brain. You cannot rely on others to guide you when playing Go. You have to train your thinking." Bai pouted and said, "Elder brother Yi-chan just likes to side with elder sister Ruyue. He is not willing to help Bai." Xiao Chan shook his head and smiled faintly. He ignored Bai's words and walked to the side to rest. After a while, Bai, who had lost to Lu Ruyue again, put away the Go board and said, "Woo, elder sister Ruyue is too incredible. Bai will not play with you anymore. Bai, go and look for elder sister Xiao Meng." Even if Xiao Meng and Xiao Yang worked together, they would not be able to defeat Bai. After she spoke, she put away the Go board and skipped out of the courtyard. She did not seem dispirited at all. Clearly, she did not care about winning or losing. After Bai left, Xiao Chan opened his eyes and walked over to Lu Ruyue. Lu Ruyue asked, "What trouble did you run into? Let me see if I can help you." Xiao Chan nodded and told Lu Ruyue about the difficulties he faced when cultivating the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation in detail. After Lu Ruyue heard it, she frowned slightly. Her face, which was filled with a mature charm, revealed a contemplative expression. After a while, Lu Ruyue relaxed her frown and revealed a smile. She said softly, "Let's see if we can do it this way. Opening 4 minor meridians in one go is indeed risky. However, if we only open 2, the risk will not be as high." Xiao Chen's eyes lit up. He said, "Are you saying that I should wait until I become a peak superior grade martial saint before forcefully opening the other 2 minor meridians?" Lu Ruyue nodded and said, "That's right. At that time you will be breaking through to Martial King. If you can cultivate the 6th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation, breaking through to Martial King will be much easier. When preparing to open the minor meridians, remember to prepare some spirit herbs for nourishing the meridians. If you can buy medicinal pills for nourishing the meridians, that would be for the best. A forcefully open meridian is much weaker than a naturally open meridian. If it is not well protected, this minor meridian will slowly be crippled in the future. On the other hand, if you take good care of it, there will not be any hidden dangers in the meridians. Xiao Qin's mind suddenly became clear. Although he still needed some time to cultivate to peak martial saint, it was much faster than cultivating to martial king. Furthermore, according to Lu Ruyue's method, breaking through to martial king would be much easier. Xiao Chun rejoiced in his heart. He thanked her. Rue, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You have helped me greatly again. Lu Ruyue smiled gently. When she saw Xiao Chen's happy smile, she felt happy for him as well. That's right, my father wants you to go to the summit tonight. He has something to discuss with you, Lu Ruyue suddenly said, as though she recalled something. The night sky was dark and filled with stars. Xiao Chun looked at the summit of Qingyun Peak. His eyes were filled with hesitation. If there was one person in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion that could make Xiao Chun feel fear from the bottom of his heart, that person would be Lu Tianyu. Regardless of whether it was someone as strong as Song Ke or someone as powerful as the First Elder, although Xiao Chun feared them, he did not feel any fear. This was because he could see through these people. He could tell where their limits were. Since he knew their limits, naturally he had nothing to fear. However, there was only Lu Tianyu. If Xiao Chun could avoid meeting him, he would do so. When Xiao Chun first arrived at the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, this person gave him a scabbard to help him cover up the traces left by the Thunder King on the lunar shadow saber. With one glance, Lu Tianyu saw through Xiao Qin's identity as the Thunder King's inheritor. After that, he half-coerced and half-bribed Xiao Chun into sending him into a different dimension. He had narrowly escaped with his life. Before Lu Tianyu, Xiao Chun did not have any secrets. Such a person was terrifying. No matter how unwilling he was, Xiao Chun had to go. This person could not even afford to hide. Xiao Chun calmed his emotions and pushed off the ground. He dashed up the steps leading up the mountain. When he arrived at the cliff, he used the gravity spell and soared into the air. After a while, he landed firmly on the ground. A strong wind blew endlessly at the summit. Xiao Qin's hair and clothes fluttered in the wind. He could not even keep his eyes open. Lu Tianyu sat cross-legged on that strange rock. When the wind blew past him, it was like he was air. There were no ripples at all. The two of them stood on the summit, one quiet and the other moving. The difference in their cultivations was clear. Lu Tianyu opened his eyes. His somewhat turbid eyes looked at Xiao Chun quietly. Lu Tianyu's face was filled with wrinkles. He looked even older than before. There were signs of aging between his eyebrows. Lu Tianyu's gaze made Xiao Qin's hair stand on end. He quickly asked, "Senior, why are you looking for me? I hope you can tell me." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.